3 years. That's how long Bianca Varelli has worked for the most dangerous man in Naples, close enough to see the blood on his hands, careful enough never to let him see her heart. Tonight, standing in his rain-lashed office overlooking a city he controls like a chessboard, she's about to shatter the only rule that's kept them both alive: distance. "I have a date tomorrow," she says, watching something lethal flicker behind Marius Orlov's cold eyes. In that moment, she knows. Some lines, once crossed, rewrite everything, like this story. "Comment your city so I can see how far it travels. Stay until the end." The rain came down like nails against the floor-to-ceiling windows, each gust rattling the glass, just enough to remind Bianca that even 40 stories up, nature still had teeth. Naples sprawled below, a glittering sprawl of lights that looked almost peaceful from this height. Almost. She knew better. Every one of those lights represented someone trying to survive in a city where power changed hands like currency, where loyalty was bought and sold, where men like Marius Orlov decided who thrived and who disappeared. She stood near the window, tablet in hand, reviewing the week's logistics while Marius sat at his desk, silent as a knife. The office smelled like expensive leather and rain-soaked air that leaked through the ventilation. Clean, controlled, just like everything else in his world. "The shipment clears customs Thursday," she said, not looking up. Antonio's contact confirmed. No delays. Good. His voice was low, accented, Russian overlaid with Italian, neither quite swallowing the other. 3 years she'd worked for him, and she still couldn't predict which language he'd curse in when things went wrong. She swiped to the next screen. "Ferrano wants a meeting. He's pushing back on the terms." "Let him push." Bianca glanced up. Marius hadn't moved, hadn't even looked at her. He sat with his hands folded on the desk, rings glinting under the overhead light, one silver, one black stone. His suit was charcoal, tailored so precisely it looked like armor. Dark hair swept back, jaw tight, eyes the color of winter seas. Handsome in the way that dangerous things often were. Beautiful, even. She'd stopped letting herself think about that a long time ago. "He'll walk," she said. "He won't." "He might." Now Marius looked at her, and the air in the room shifted. Just a degree, just enough. "Then he walks," Marius said quietly. "And we remind him what happens to men who forget their place." Bianca held his gaze for a beat longer than necessary, then returned to her tablet. This was the dance. She pushed. He pushed back. He respected her because she didn't flinch. She stayed because he never made her feel small. It was the strangest, most dangerous equilibrium she'd ever known. "Anything else?" he asked. She hesitated, just for a second, but a second was enough for a man like Marius to notice. "Bianca." She set the tablet down on the edge of his desk, folded her arms. The rain hammered harder against the glass. Somewhere far below, a siren wailed through the streets. "I have a date tomorrow," she said. "I'll need to leave by 6. Silence. Not the comfortable kind. The kind that pressed against your chest and made you aware of your own heartbeat. Marius didn't blink, didn't move. He just watched her with that unreadable expression he wore when he was deciding whether someone lived or died. Bianca knew that look. She'd seen it across tables during negotiations, in the moments before he gave an order that would ruin someone's life. She'd never had it turned on her. Not like this. "A date," he repeated. "Yes." "With? Does it matter?" His jaw tightened. "It matters." She shouldn't have smiled, but she did, just a flicker, gone before it fully formed. "His name is Marco. He's an architect. We met at a gallery opening last month." "An architect?" "Yes." "And you like him?" "I don't know yet. That's why people go on dates, Marius, to find out." He leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking softly. His fingers drummed once against the armrest, an almost imperceptible tell. He was angry, or something close to it. "You've worked late every Thursday for 3 years," he said. "I'm aware. I'll need you here. You'll have me until 6. "That's not enough." Bianca uncrossed her arms, stepped closer to the desk. "Then hire more staff." "I don't want more staff." "Then adjust." The silence stretched again. Rain, wind, the distant hum of the city below. Marius's eyes never left hers. She could feel the weight of his attention like a physical thing, pressing against her skin, searching for cracks. "Why now?" he asked. "Why not now?" 3 years, Bianca, you've never what? Had a life outside this office?" She gestured around the room, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the sleek furniture, the empire he'd built from blood and strategy. "I'm allowed to have one, aren't I?" "Of course." "Then what's the problem?" He stood, slow, deliberate. Marius didn't do anything without intention. He came around the desk, stopped a few feet away, close enough that she could smell the faint trace of his cologne, something dark and woody that probably cost more than most people's rent. Close enough that the air between them felt charged, like the moment before lightning struck. "There's no problem," he said softly. "Go on your date." Bianca searched his face. Nothing. He'd locked it down, buried whatever reaction he'd had beneath layers of control. This was the man who'd built an empire in one of the most dangerous cities in Europe. The man who never showed weakness, never showed anything he didn't want seen. "Fine," she said. She turned to leave. "Bianca." She stopped, didn't turn around. "Wear the blue dress," he said. "The one you wore to the gala in Rome. You looked—" He paused. "He'll appreciate it." Her heart did something complicated in her chest. She didn't let it show. "Good night, Marius." "Good night." She left. The door closed behind her with a soft click, and she stood in the hallway for a long moment, letting her pulse settle. The building was quiet at this hour. Most of the staff had gone home. Just security downstairs, a few cleaners on the lower floors. She took the private elevator down, watched the numbers descend, and tried not to think about the way Marius had looked at her. 3 years. 3 years of this careful, impossible distance. She'd known from the first week that working for Marius Orlov would be dangerous. Not just because of what he did, the shipments, the deals, the quiet wars fought in backrooms and boardrooms, but because of what he was. Magnetic, ruthless, the kind of man who could make you forget every rule you'd ever set for yourself. So she'd built walls. Professional, precise. She was his assistant, his strategist, the person who made sure his empire ran smoothly. Nothing more. And he'd respected that. Never crossed the line. Never pushed. Until tonight. The elevator doors opened. She stepped out into the underground garage, heels clicking against concrete. Her car was parked near the entrance, a sleek black sedan that Marius had insisted she use. Safer, he'd said, less conspicuous. She slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and sat there for a moment, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. "Wear the blue dress." She laughed. Short, sharp, humorless. Then she drove home. The date was fine. That was the worst part. It was perfectly, entirely fine. Marco was charming, attractive. He wore a tailored shirt with the sleeves rolled up, showing forearms that were tanned and strong from hours spent drafting and building models. He talked about his latest project, a museum renovation on the coast, and his eyes lit up when he described the way natural light would filter through the new skylights. Bianca smiled, nodded, asked questions, and felt absolutely nothing. They were at a small restaurant near the waterfront, the kind of place with soft lighting and jazz playing low in the background. Romantic. Intimate. The sort of place where normal people had normal dates. Marco reached across the table, brushed his fingers against hers. "I'm glad you said yes," he said. "Me too." Liar. Her phone buzzed in her purse. She ignored it. It buzzed again. "Sorry," she murmured, pulling it out. "Work." Marco's smile dimmed just slightly. "On a Friday night? It's—" She glanced at the screen. "Marius." "Of course." "I'll be quick." She stepped outside, pressed the phone to her ear. The waterfront stretched out before her, lights reflecting off the black water, the smell of salt and seaweed thick in the air. "Yes?" "We have a problem," Marius said. No preamble, no apology for interrupting. "What kind of problem?" "Ferrano's men hit one of our warehouses. 3 dead. They took the shipment." Bianca closed her eyes. "When?" "An hour ago." "And you're just telling me now?" "I was handling it." "Handling it how?" "The way I handle things." Which meant blood, which meant bodies, which meant war. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, she said. You're on a date. Not anymore. She hung up, went back inside. Marco looked up, hopeful, as she approached the table. I'm so sorry, Bianca said, grabbing her coat. Emergency at work. I have to go. Now? Yes, I'll make it up to you, I promise. She left cash on the table, too much, but she didn't care, and walked out before he could respond. The night air hit her face, cool and damp. She got in her car, hands shaking slightly as she started the engine. This was her life. This was always going to be her life. She drove too fast through the winding streets, past shuttered shops and late-night cafes, up into the hills where the city's elite lived behind gates and walls. Marius's building rose like a monument against the sky, glass and steel and power. She parked in the garage, took the elevator up. The office was chaos, not visibly. Marius didn't allow chaos, but she could feel it in the air, in the way his men stood too rigid, in the way their eyes tracked her as she entered. Marius was at the window, hands clasped behind his back, staring out at the city. Report, she said. One of the men, Luca, scarred and loyal, stepped forward. Ferrano's crew hit the warehouse at 9, killed Enzo, David, and Marco. He paused, glanced at her. Different Marco. Sorry. Bianca waved him off. Go on. They took the shipment, 12 crates, worth about 2 million. Where's Ferrano now? His club. He's not hiding. He's making a statement, Marius said without turning around. His voice was calm, too calm. He wants a war. Then we don't give him one, Bianca said. Now Marius turned. Excuse me? You heard me. We don't give him what he wants. He killed 3 of my men. And if we retaliate, he kills 3 more. We kill 6 of his. It escalates, and suddenly we're fighting a war on multiple fronts while the real sharks circle and wait for us to bleed out. She crossed the room, stopped a few feet from him. This isn't about honor. It's about strategy. They killed my men. I know, and we'll make him pay, but not like this. His jaw worked. She could see the rage burning behind his eyes, barely leashed. This was the side of Marius most people feared, the part that didn't forgive, didn't forget, didn't stop until every debt was paid in blood. But she wasn't most people. What do you suggest? He asked quietly. We find out who he's working with. Ferrano's smart, but he's not this bold on his own. Someone's backing him. We find out who, we cut the support, we isolate him. And then? Then we take everything. Marius studied her. The anger was still there, simmering, but something else flickered across his face. Respect. Hunger. Something that made her skin warm despite herself. You left your date for this, he said. Yes. The architect. Yes. How was it? She blinked. What? Your date. How was it? Bianca stared at him. Around them, his men shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the time. This wasn't the place. But Marius didn't seem to care. It was fine, she said. Fine. Yes. Will you see him again? Marius? Will you? She should lie. Should say yes. Should keep that distance, that wall, that line they'd both been so careful not to cross. I don't know, she said. He smiled, slow, dangerous. Luca, he said, not looking away from her. Send word to our contacts. I want to know everyone Ferrano's spoken to in the last month. Every meeting, every phone call, every breath. Yes, sir. And pull our men from the East Docks. I want them guarding the remaining shipments. Double shifts. Yes, sir. The men filed out. The door closed. Suddenly, it was just the 2 of them, standing in the too quiet office with the rain still hammering against the windows and the city glittering below like a beast pretending to sleep. You should go home, Marius said. So should you. I have work to do. So do I. Bianca, don't! She held up a hand. Don't tell me to leave. Don't tell me to rest. Don't tell me I've done enough. You called me. I came. Now let me do my job. He moved closer. Just a step. But it was enough to change everything. Your job, he said softly, was supposed to be over at 6. Things change. They do. His hand came up, fingertips brushing the edge of her jaw. Featherlight. She should step back, should maintain the distance, should remember every reason this was a terrible idea. She didn't move. 3 years, Marius murmured. 3 years I've watched you walk out that door every night. 3 years I've kept my hands to myself. Marius? Tell me about him. Who? The architect. Tell me what he offers that I don't. Her breath caught. This isn't... We can't. Safety. His thumb traced her cheekbone. A normal life? Someone who doesn't have blood on his hands? Yes. Do you want that? I don't know. Liar. The word hit like a slap. Her pulse hammered. She could feel the heat of him, the weight of his attention, the 3 years of tension that had been building brick by brick until it was a wall between them, or maybe a foundation beneath them. She couldn't tell anymore. I want... She stopped. Started again. I want to not have to choose between a life and a job. This isn't a job. Then what is it? His hand dropped. He stepped back. The absence of his touch felt like cold water. Go home, he said. We'll handle this in the morning. Marius, please. She'd never heard him say that word before. Not to her, not to anyone. She left. The weekend passed in a blur of phone calls and encrypted messages. Bianca worked from her apartment, a sleek 2-bedroom in the heart of the city that she'd decorated with art and books and all the trappings of a normal life. It felt hollow now, like a stage set. Marco texted, asked if she was okay. She replied with apologies and vague promises to reschedule. He texted again Sunday night. No pressure, but I'd really like to see you again. Coffee this week? She stared at the message for 10 minutes before responding. Sure. I'll check my schedule. Monday morning came too fast. She arrived at the office early, before the sun had fully risen, and found Marius already there. He looked like he hadn't slept. Shirt sleeves rolled up, tie discarded, shadows under his eyes. Coffee? She asked. Please. She poured 2 cups from the machine in the corner, handed him one. Their fingers brushed. Neither of them acknowledged it. Luca's team found something, Marius said. Ferrano's been meeting with Dmitry Volkov. Bianca froze. Volkov? Yes. Volkov was Russian mafia. Old school. Brutal. He'd been trying to muscle into Naples for years, but Marius had always kept him at bay through a combination of strategy and violence. He's funding Ferrano, she said. Looks that way. Then this isn't about territory. It's about toppling you entirely. Yes. Bianca set her cup down, mind racing. We need to move fast. If Volkov's backing Ferrano, there will be others, Marius finished. Anyone I've ever crossed will see this as an opportunity. So we make an example. Of? Ferrano. We hit him hard, public, brutal. Send a message that anyone who sides with Volkov ends up the same way. Marius looked at her. You're talking about a war. You're already in one. You just haven't started fighting yet. He smiled. That dangerous, beautiful smile that made her forget how to breathe. I knew there was a reason I kept you around, he said. Just one? The air shifted again, that pull, that gravity. No, he said quietly. Not just one. Her phone buzzed. Marco. Coffee tomorrow. 10 a.m. at the place near your office. She silenced it without responding. The architect? Marius asked. Yes. You should go. Have your coffee. Your normal life. I don't want... What do you want, Bianca? The question hung between them like a blade. She could lie. Could say something safe. Could keep the walls up and the distance intact and pretend the last 3 years hadn't been the most alive she'd ever felt. Or she could tell the truth. I want... The door burst open. Luca breathless, blood on his shirt. We've got a problem, he gasped. Ferrano just hit the docks. Warehouse 3 is on fire. Marius was moving before Luca finished speaking. Bianca followed, heart pounding, the moment shattered but not forgotten. They took Marius's car, an armored SUV that handled like a tank. Luca drove. Bianca sat in the back with Marius, watching the city blur past. Dawn was breaking, turning the sky purple and gold. Beautiful. Wrong. How many men? Marius asked. Unknown. At least a dozen. They came heavy. Casualties? Two of ours. Don't know about theirs. Marius's jaw tightened. Bianca could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. This was escalation. This was Ferrano, and by extension Volkov, saying they weren't afraid. They reached the docks just as the fire trucks arrived. Warehouse 3 was fully engulfed, flames licking 50 feet into the sky, black smoke pouring out like a funeral shroud. Marius's men were scattered around the perimeter, guns drawn, faces grim. Bianca climbed out of the SUV, the heat hitting her like a wall. Marius stood beside her, silent, watching his empire burn. "Get everyone back to the main office," he said quietly. "Now." "Sir." "Now, Luca." They regrouped an hour later. The office felt different, smaller, tighter, like the walls were closing in. Marius sat at his desk, fingers steepled, while his lieutenants gave reports. 6 warehouses left, 2 million in losses, morale shaken. Bianca stood by the window watching the city wake up. Somewhere down there, people were having coffee, going to work, living normal lives. She used to think she wanted that. She didn't anymore. "We need to respond," one of the lieutenants, Giorgio, older, scarred, was saying. "Hit them back. Show them we're not weak." "We're not weak," Marius said. "We're strategic. Strategy won't stop them from burning everything you've built." "No, but it will let us burn them worse." Bianca turned. "We go after Volkov." Every head in the room swiveled toward her. "Volkov's in Moscow," Giorgio said. "We can't touch him there." "No, but we can touch his assets here, his money, his shipments, his men." She walked to the desk, leaned against it. "Ferrano's the muscle. Volkov's the brain. We cut the brain, the muscle dies." "And how do we do that?" another lieutenant asked. She looked at Marius. "We make him choose between his war and his fortune." Understanding flickered across Marius's face. "You want to go after his financials." "Everything. Bank accounts, shell companies, investments. We find every euro he's hidden in this city, and we take it." "That's..." Giorgio shook his head. "That's not how wars are fought." "No," Bianca said. "It's how they're won." The room fell silent. Marius stood, came around the desk. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his eyes. "Do it," he said. She nodded. "And Bianca?" "Yes?" "After this is over..." He paused. "After this is over, we're going to finish that conversation." Her heart kicked. "Which one?" He smiled, leaned in, whispered against her ear. "You know which one." Then he turned, started giving orders, and Bianca stood there feeling like the ground had just shifted beneath her feet. The war had started, and somewhere in the chaos, something else had started too, something that terrified her more than any of Volkov's men ever could. The next 72 hours blurred into a kind of controlled chaos that Bianca had never experienced before. Sleep became optional. Meals were whatever could be eaten standing up. The office transformed into a war room, screens flickering with financial data, maps of the city marked with red pins showing Volkov's known operations, whiteboards covered in names and numbers and connections that spiderwebbed across Naples like veins. Bianca worked like a woman possessed. She pulled in every contact she had, bankers who owed her favors, accountants who valued discretion over loyalty, tech specialists who could trace money through a dozen shell companies before breakfast. Marius gave her carte blanche, unlimited resources, and the kind of trust that felt heavier than any chain. By Wednesday, they had a picture. Volkov had his fingers in everything. Shipping companies, real estate, restaurants that laundered money through inflated receipts, a nightclub that moved drugs through the VIP entrance, a construction firm that built half the luxury apartments in the financial district, and at the center of it all, a bank. Small, private, catering to clients who valued anonymity over interest rates. "Banco Adriatico," Bianca said, pointing at the screen. "It's his hub. Every transaction flows through there eventually." Marius stood behind her, so close she could feel the heat of him against her back. He smelled like coffee and exhaustion and something darker, something that made her pulse kick despite the circumstances. "Can we access it?" he asked. "Legally? No." "I didn't ask about legality." She turned, found herself inches from his chest. He didn't step back. Neither did she. I have a contact, she said. Someone who worked there until last year. He might still have access credentials. Might. Will. He will have access. Marius's mouth curved. What did you promise him? Nothing yet. I wanted to clear it with you first. Clear what? 50,000 euros cash and a guarantee that Volkov never finds out who helped us. Done. Just like that? Just like that. His hand came up, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so casual, so intimate, that it stole her breath. You're making me a lot of money, Bianca. 50,000 is a bargain. I haven't made you anything yet. You will. The confidence in his voice should have been arrogant. Instead, it felt like faith, like he believed in her the way most people believed in gravity. She stepped back before she did something stupid. I'll set up the meeting. Take Luca. I don't need to see. Take Luca. His voice went hard. Volkov knows we're coming for him by now. He'll be watching. I'm not letting you go anywhere alone. Marius, this isn't negotiable. She wanted to argue, wanted to remind him that she'd been taking care of herself long before he showed up in her life. But the look in his eyes stopped her. This wasn't about control. This was about fear. Raw, barely concealed fear that something might happen to her. It should have annoyed her. It didn't. Fine, she said. Luca comes. Thank you. She left before the moment could stretch into something neither of them were ready for. The hallway outside was blessedly empty. She leaned against the wall, pressed her palms against the cool surface, and tried to slow her heartbeat. 3 years of distance. 3 years of professionalism. All of it unraveling in less than a week. Her phone buzzed. Marco. She'd forgotten about Marco entirely. The text was short, hurt trying to hide behind casualness. Haven't heard from you. Everything okay? Guilt twisted in her stomach. She typed out a response. Work's been insane. Rain check on that coffee? His reply came fast. Sure. Just let me know when you're free. She wouldn't be. She knew that already. This thing with Volkov, with Ferrano, with Marius, it was consuming everything. There was no room for coffee dates and polite conversation about architecture. There was barely room to breathe. She pocketed her phone and went to find Luca. The meeting happened in a cafe near the university, the kind of place where students hunched over laptops and the espresso was strong enough to strip paint. Bianca sat in the back corner, Luca at the next table pretending to read a newspaper. Her contact, Paolo, mid-40s, thinning hair, nervous eyes, arrived 10 minutes late. You look like hell, he said, sliding into the chair across from her. Missed you too, Paolo. He ordered an espresso, added 3 sugars, stirred it like he was trying to bore a hole through the cup. I heard about the warehouse. Ferrano's making moves. Ferrano's a puppet. We both know who's pulling the strings. Paolo's hand stilled. I don't want any part of this. Then why are you here? Because you said it was important. It is. And because, he glanced around, lowered his voice, because I owe you, after what you did for my sister. You don't owe me anything. That was separate. Nothing's separate in this city. He took a sip of his espresso, grimaced. What do you need? Bianca slid a folded paper across the table. Account numbers. Transaction histories. Anything connected to these names. Paolo unfolded it, scanned the list. His face went pale. Jesus Christ, Bianca. Half of these are Volkov's companies. I know. You want me to steal financial records from the Russian mafia. I want you to access records you're legally entitled to as a former employee. That's not how it works, and you know it. 50,000 euros. His eyes snapped up. What? Cash. Untraceable. Plus a new identity if you need it. Passports, documents, the works. You could disappear. Take your sister. Start over somewhere Volkov's name means nothing. Paolo's throat worked. And if I say no? Then you say no. I walk away. We never had this conversation. He stared at the list. Outside, rain started again. Light, persistent. The kind that soaked through everything. A student laughed too loud at the counter. The espresso machine hissed and gurgled. When? Paolo asked. Tonight. I know it's fast, but we don't have time. Volkov's moving against us. Every day we wait, he gets stronger. And if I get caught, Bianca met his eyes. You won't. I'll make sure of it. How? Because I'm very good at my job. And because the man I work for doesn't leave his people behind. Paolo laughed, short and bitter. The man you work for is Marius Orlov. He leaves bodies behind. Yes, but never his own people. I'm not his people. You are now. The weight of that settled between them. Paolo finished his espresso, set the cup down with shaking hands. Okay, he said. Okay, but I want half the money up front. Done. Give me your account number. Cash. Paolo. Cash. Tonight, before I do anything. Bianca nodded. Where? The old marina. Pier 7. Midnight. Dramatic. Safe. No cameras, no witnesses. Fine. Midnight. Paolo stood, tucked the paper into his jacket. For what it's worth, I hope you know what you're doing. So do I. He left. Luca materialized at her table 30 seconds later. He's solid? Luca asked. Solid enough. And if he's not, then we'll handle it. Luca's smile was all teeth. I like you, Bianca. You think like us. She wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a warning. What? They went back to the office. Marius was in a meeting with Giorgio and 2 other lieutenants, arguing about patrol routes and response times. Bianca slipped past into the smaller conference room, pulled up the financial software, and started mapping Volkov's empire. It was bigger than she'd thought, more complex. He had money flowing through at least 15 different entities, some of them legitimate businesses that probably didn't even know they were funding a war, restaurants, a taxi company, a goddamn flower shop. Finding anything interesting? She jumped. Marius stood in the doorway, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, looking like he'd been awake for a week. Probably had been. He's good, she said. Better than I expected. The money's layered. It'll take time to unravel. How much time? A week, maybe more. We don't have a week. I know. Marius crossed to the window, stared out at the city. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still gray, heavy with the promise of more. Ferrano hit another warehouse last night, the one in Secondigliano. Bianca's stomach dropped. Casualties? 4 dead, 6 injured. Fuck. Yeah. She closed her laptop, rubbed her eyes. We're not moving fast enough. No, we're not. The bank access will help. Once we have the transaction records, it might be too late by then. The defeat in his voice was new, unfamiliar. Marius didn't do defeat. He did ruthless efficiency and calculated violence and absolute control. Hearing that edge of doubt was like watching a mountain crack. She stood, went to him. Hey. He didn't look at her. Hey. She touched his arm. We're going to win this. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because you're smarter than Volkov. Because you've built something here that matters. Because you have people who would die for you. 4 of them already have. And their deaths won't be meaningless. We're going to make Volkov pay for every single one. Now he looked at her. The exhaustion in his eyes was overwhelming. So was something else, something that made her chest ache. Why? He asked quietly. Why what? Why do you care so much? This isn't your fight. You could walk away, find another job, go have coffee with your architect and live a normal life. Is that what you want me to do? I want... He stopped, started again. I want you to be safe. I am safe. No, you're not. Not while you're standing next to me. She stepped closer. Then maybe I like the danger. His jaw tightened. Bianca. 3 years, Marius. 3 years I've watched you carry this city on your shoulders. You think I don't know what that costs? You think I don't see the weight of it? Then why stay? Because, the words stuck in her throat, truth was harder than lies. Because when I'm here, I'm alive. Really alive. Not just going through the motions, not just pretending to want things I don't actually want. Like the architect. Like the architect. Like the normal life. Like all of it. The air between them was electric. Charged. One of them needed to step back. Neither of them did. I told you we'd finish that conversation, Marius said, voice low. I remember. I meant it. I know. His hand came up, cupped her face. His palm was warm, calloused. She leaned into it without thinking. After this is over, he started. The door banged open. Luca, breathless, eyes wild. Boss, we've got a problem. Marius dropped his hand, turned. What kind of problem? Ferrano, he's at Russo's restaurant with 12 men. He's asking for a meeting. A meeting. Says he wants to negotiate. Bianca's mind raced. It's a trap. Obviously, Marius said. But we have to respond. If we ignore him, we look weak, she finished. Fuck. My thoughts exactly. Luca shifted. What do you want to do, boss? Marius was quiet for a long moment, then, set it up. Tomorrow night. Neutral ground. Our terms. Sir, do it. Luca left. Marius turned back to Bianca. You're not coming, he said. The hell I'm not. Bianca, this is my strategy, my plan. If you're walking into a trap, I'm walking in with you. No. You don't get to make that call. Yes, I do. I'm your employer. And I'm the only reason you're not fighting a war on 6 fronts right now. She crossed her arms. You need me there. What I need is for you to be alive. Then don't get us killed. They stared at each other. Outside, the city hummed. Somewhere, a car alarm wailed. The moment stretched, taut as wire. Fine, Marius said. But you stay in the car with Luca. You don't come in unless I give the signal. What signal? Gunfire. She laughed despite herself. That's not funny. It wasn't a joke. He left before she could argue further. Bianca stood in the empty conference room, heart hammering, and wondered when exactly her life had turned into something out of a crime film. Her phone buzzed. Marco again. I feel like I'm bothering you. If you're not interested, just say so. She stared at the message, typed, I'm sorry, you deserve better than this. His response came fast. Better than what? Than me? She turned off her phone. Okay. Midnight came cold and damp. The old marina was exactly as Paolo had described, deserted, dark, the kind of place where bad things happened and nobody asked questions. Bianca stood on Pier 7 with a duffel bag containing 25,000 euros in cash, Luca 10 feet behind her, hand inside his jacket where his gun lived. Paolo appeared from the shadows like a ghost. He looked worse than he had at the cafe, sweat on his forehead despite the chill, eyes darting everywhere. You have it? He asked. Bianca held up the bag. You have what I need? He pulled a USB drive from his pocket. Transaction records for the last 6 months. Everything connected to the accounts you listed. All of them? Every single one. She tossed him the bag. He caught it, unzipped it, rifled through the bills. His hand shook so badly he almost dropped it. The rest comes when we verify the data, Bianca said. When? 48 hours. That wasn't the deal. The deal was 50,000 for verified intel. This is half. You'll get the rest when I confirm it's real. Paolo's face twisted. You don't trust me. I don't trust anyone. Bianca, 48 hours, Paolo. Then you get your money and you disappear. That's the deal. He looked like he wanted to argue. Instead, he nodded, clutched the bag to his chest, and backed away into the darkness. 30 seconds later, he was gone, swallowed by the night and the rain that had started again. Luca appeared at her elbow. Think he'll run? Probably, but not before we verify the data. And if it's fake? Then we find him, and I let you do what you do best. Luca grinned. I really do like you. They drove back in silence. The city was quiet at this hour, just the occasional taxi and the streetlights reflecting off wet pavement. Bianca plugged the USB into her laptop as soon as they were back at the office, pulled up the files. Her breath caught. It was real. All of it. Transaction records, account numbers, shell company registrations. A map of Volkov's entire financial network laid out like a blueprint. Holy shit, she whispered. Marius appeared behind her. Good? Better than good. Marius, this is everything. He leaned over her shoulder, scanned the screen. She could feel the tension in him, coiled tight as a spring. Can you use it? He asked. Can I? She laughed. Yes, God, yes. I can trace every euro, find every account. We can bleed him dry. How long? Give me 24 hours. You have 12. Marius, the meeting with Ferrano is tomorrow night. I want to walk in there with leverage. She turned in her chair, looked up at him. You're really doing this? Yes. It's a trap. I know. You could die. I could, but I won't. How can you be so sure? His hand touched her cheek, thumb brushing her jaw. Because I have something to live for. The words hit like a punch. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All she could do was stare at him while her heart tried to climb out of her chest. Get to work, Marius said softly. I'll have Luca bring you coffee. He left. Bianca sat frozen for a full minute before she could move again. Then she got to work. 12 hours later, she had it. Every account, every transaction, every shell company and dummy corporation and laundered euro that Volkov had hidden across Naples. She'd built a web so detailed that she could tell you which restaurant he'd used to funnel money last Tuesday, which construction company was overpaying for cement to hide drug profits, which shipping container was carrying more than just olive oil. It was beautiful, damning, exactly what they needed. She found Marius in his office, staring at the wall where he'd hung a map of the city, red pins for Volkov's operations, blue for his own. The red was spreading. I have it, she said. He turned. Show me. She walked him through it, every connection, every vulnerability. By the time she finished, his expression had shifted from exhausted to predatory. This is good, he said. It's better than good. We can destroy him. Not destroy, cripple. There's a difference. What's the plan? Marius studied the map. We freeze the accounts, all of them, simultaneously. That'll take coordination. You have contacts at the banks. Some, not all. Then we'll encourage cooperation. His smile was cold. I can be very persuasive. That's one word for it. We move tomorrow morning, before the meeting. That way when I sit down with Ferrano, he'll know we've already cut his funding. He'll know Volkov's funding, Bianca corrected. Ferrano doesn't have access to these accounts. No, but Volkov does, and when Volkov realizes we've gutted him, he'll pull support. Ferrano will be alone. And then? Then we finish it. The certainty in his voice should have been frightening. Instead, it was magnetic. This was Marius at his most dangerous, cold, calculated, absolutely sure of his victory. What do you need from me? Bianca asked. Everything you've already given me. He crossed to her, stopped close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. You've been extraordinary. I'm just doing my job. No, you're not. You're doing something much more important. What's that? Saving me. Her breath caught. Marius, I mean it. Without you. He shook his head. I would have gone to war the old way. Blood for blood, bodies in the street. I would have won eventually, but the cost would have been too high. Yes. She reached up, touched his face. He leaned into it the same way she'd leaned into his touch hours before. We're not done yet, she said. I know. The meeting with Ferrano will be fine. You don't know that. No, but I have faith. In what? In you. In this. His hand covered hers, pressed it against his cheek. In us. The word hung in the air. Us. Like they were a unit, a partnership, something more than employer and employee, more than allies in a war, something real. After this is over, Bianca started. We'll talk, really talk. No interruptions. Promise? I promise. The door opened. Luca again, looking apologetic. Boss, Giorgio needs you. Something about the shipment from Marseille. Marius sighed, pressed a kiss to her palm before releasing her hand. Duty calls. Always does. He left. Bianca stood alone in the office, palm tingling where his lips had touched, and realized with crystal clarity that she'd passed some invisible point of no return. This wasn't just about the job anymore. Maybe it never had been. The next morning dawned gray and threatening. Bianca coordinated the account freezes from her apartment, making calls to bankers and lawyers and people who owed her favors. By noon, Volkov's financial network was locked down tighter than a vault. By 2, the calls started coming back. Confused bankers wondering why their systems were flagging accounts, lawyers asking who'd filed the injunctions, clients demanding access to funds that had suddenly vanished. She documented everything, sent it all to Marius. His response was a single word: perfect. The meeting was set for 8 p.m. at a neutral location, an old warehouse in the industrial district that neither side controlled. Marius left at 7 with 6 men. Bianca left at 7:15 with Luca, following in a separate car. "You should stay at the office," Luca said as they drove through twilight streets. "We've had this conversation. The boss doesn't want you in danger. The boss doesn't get everything he wants." Luca laughed. "No, I suppose he doesn't." They parked 2 blocks from the warehouse. Bianca could see it through the windshield, big, industrial, windows dark. Marius's car was already there, along with 2 others she recognized as belonging to his men. "Stay here," Luca said. "That's the plan." "I mean it, Bianca. Things go wrong, you drive away. Don't wait for us. Don't try to help. Just go." She wanted to argue, but the look in Luca's eyes stopped her. He was scared, actually scared. For her, for Marius, for all of them. "Okay," she said quietly. Luca squeezed her shoulder, then got out. She watched him cross the street, disappear into the warehouse. The door closed behind him with a sound like a gunshot. Bianca sat in the dark car and waited. Minutes crawled past. 5, 10, 15. Nothing happened. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "He's walking into a trap. Get him out." Her blood went cold. She tried to call Marius. No answer. Tried Luca. Nothing. 20 minutes. Then she heard it. Not gunfire. Something worse. Silence. The kind of silence that came before something terrible. She got out of the car. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to drive away like Luca had said, to save herself. She walked toward the warehouse instead. The door was unlocked. She pushed it open, stepped into darkness that smelled like oil and rust and something metallic that made her stomach turn. "Marius?" No answer. She pulled out her phone, used the flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, illuminating concrete floors, old machinery, shadows that moved wrong. "Luca?" Still nothing. She moved deeper into the warehouse, heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. The silence was suffocating, wrong. Where were the men? Where was... She saw the blood first, a pool of it, spreading across the concrete like spilled paint. Then the bodies. 3 of them. Marius's men, throats cut, eyes staring at nothing. Bianca's scream died in her throat. "Hello, Bianca." She spun. Verano stood 10 feet away, gun in hand, smiling like a man who'd just won the lottery. "Where is he?" she demanded. "Your boss?" Indisposed at the moment. "If you've heard him..." "You'll what? You're not the one with the gun, sweetheart." Footsteps behind her. She turned. More men. 6, 8, too many. She was surrounded. "Marius knew this was a trap," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "He planned for it." "Did he plan for you to walk right into it?" Verano stepped closer. "See, that's the thing about men like Orlov. They're smart, ruthless, but they have weaknesses. And you, Bianca..." His smile widened. "You're his. You're wrong." "Am I? Then why are you here?" She had no answer for that. Verano's phone rang. He answered it, listened, smiled wider. "Volkov wants to meet you," he said. "Apparently you've been causing him some trouble." "Good." "He's not pleased." "Even better." Verano laughed. Then he nodded to his men. "Take her." They grabbed her arms. She fought, kicked, twisted, tried to break free, but there were too many of them. Someone hit her hard across the temple. The world tilted. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was the door opening and Marius stumbling through, blood on his face, fury in his eyes, reaching for her. Then nothing. Tick. She woke to pain, head throbbing, hands bound, concrete floor cold against her cheek. Bianca opened her eyes, blinked until the world came into focus. She was in a different room, smaller, metal walls, a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. "Welcome back." She turned her head. Volkov sat across from her in a chair that looked too small for his frame. He was older than she'd expected, 60s maybe, with gray hair and a face that had seen too much. He wore an expensive suit and a watch that probably cost more than her car. "Where's Marius?" she rasped. "Alive, for now." Volkov studied her like she was an interesting insect. "You've been very clever, Miss Varelli. The accounts, the freezes. Quite impressive." "Fuck you," he smiled. "I like you. You have fire. I can see why Orlov keeps you around. You don't know anything about us. Don't I? I know he'd burn this entire city for you. I know that right now he's tearing through my men trying to find you. I know that makes you valuable." He leaned forward. "The question is, how valuable? You won't win this. I already have. Your boss is bleeding. His empire is crumbling. And you're here. With me. He'll come for me." "Yes, he will. And when he does, I'll kill him." Volkov stood crossed to her. "Unless you give me a reason not to." "What do you want?" "The account access. All of it. You're going to unfreeze every account you locked, and you're going to transfer the funds to new locations I'll provide." "No." "Then Orlov dies. Tonight." Her chest constricted. "You're lying. You need him. The city will adjust. Someone new will rise. Someone who understands that Naples belongs to me now." He crouched in front of her, voice going soft. "Make this easy, Bianca. Give me the access. Save his life. Walk away. And if I don't? Then I make you watch while I put a bullet in his head. Then I kill you too. Then I burn everything he's built until there's nothing left but ash and memory." The air left her lungs. This was real. This was happening. Volkov wasn't bluffing. She had two choices: betray everything she and Marius had built, or watch him die. The door exploded inward, gunfire, shouting, bodies hitting the floor. Marius came through the smoke and chaos like an avenging angel, blood on his face, murder in his eyes. He shot the guard nearest Bianca, then Volkov's man by the door, then turned the gun on Volkov himself. "Move and I'll paint the walls with your brain," Marius said, voice dead calm. Volkov raised his hand slowly. "Orlov, we can discuss this." "There's nothing to discuss." Luca appeared, cut Bianca's bonds. She stumbled to her feet, legs shaking, and Marius caught her with his free hand. "Are you hurt?" he demanded. "No, I'm okay." "Did he touch you?" "No." The relief in his eyes was staggering. Then they went hard again, focused on Volkov. "You made a mistake," Marius said quietly. "You went after what's mine." "She's your employee." "She's mine." The words were final, absolute. "And you're going to pay for this. Kill me and you start a war you can't win. I'll take that risk." Bianca touched his arm. "Marius, don't. He took you." "I know, but if you kill him, he dies anyway, just slower." She stepped between him and Volkov. "Think, please. This isn't about revenge. This is about winning." "I don't care about winning anymore. I care about you." The words hit like physical blows. She saw the truth in his eyes, raw, undeniable, terrifying in its intensity. "Then care enough to finish this the right way," she said. "Not with a bullet. With complete and total victory." Marius stared at her. The gun didn't waver. Then slowly, he lowered it. "Take him," he said to Luca. "Lock him somewhere secure. I'll deal with him later." Luca dragged Volkov away. The old man didn't fight, just smiled like he knew something they didn't. Then it was just the two of them in the ruined room, breathing hard, covered in blood and dust and the weight of what had almost happened. "You came for me," Bianca whispered. "Of course I came for you. You could have died. So could you." His hands cupped her face, tilted it up. "When I saw you walk into that warehouse, when I realized what you'd done, I couldn't just wait. I know. I'm sorry. Don't be." His forehead touched hers. "Don't ever be sorry for being brave." She started shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her hollow and terrified and achingly aware of how close they'd both come to dying. "I thought I'd lost you," she said. "Never. You'll never lose me." "Marius, I love you." The world stopped. She stared at him, certain she'd misheard. But no, it was there in his eyes, in the way he held her, in the ragged desperation of his voice. "I love you," he said again. "I've loved you for 3 years. I've tried to deny it, tried to keep my distance, tried to be professional, and I can't anymore. I won't. Not after tonight. Not after almost losing you." Tears burned her eyes. "This is insane." "I know. Your world, it's dangerous, violent. People die." "I know. I could die. Not if I can help it. Never if I can help it." She laughed, broken and raw. "You can't promise that." "No. But I can promise I'll do everything in my power to keep you safe, to keep you with me, to make sure that anyone who tries to hurt you learns exactly why they should fear my name." That's not reassuring. "It's all I have." She looked at him, really looked, at the blood on his face, the exhaustion in his eyes, the barely controlled violence that simmered beneath his skin, the empire he'd built, the darkness he lived in. And she realized she didn't care. Normal was a lie. Safety was an illusion. The only real thing in her life was this, standing in the wreckage with a man who'd gone to war for her, who'd risked everything, who looked at her like she was the only thing that mattered in a world full of chaos. "I love you too," she whispered. His kiss was desperate, consuming, 3 years of restraint shattering in an instant. She kissed him back with everything she had, all the fear, all the anger, all the barely acknowledged longing that had been building since the day she'd walked into his office and realized she was in trouble. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Bianca rested her forehead against his chest. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now?" Marius's hand stroked her hair. "Now we finish this war. Together. Together." And then he pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. "Then we figure out what comes after." After? After the war. After Volkov. After all of it. His thumb brushed her cheek. "I want you beside me, not just as my assistant, as my partner, my equal, in everything." "That's too much, I know, but I'm done pretending I don't need you, done pretending this is just business." She should be terrified, should run, should choose the safe path, the normal life, the architect who wanted to build museums instead of empires. She chose Marius instead. "Okay," she said. "Okay?" "Yes. Partner. Equal. All of it. Yes." The smile that broke across his face was worth every risk, every danger, every terrible choice that had led to this moment. He kissed her again, softer this time, and Bianca let herself fall into it completely. There was no going back now. The line had been crossed, and she'd never felt more alive. They left the warehouse wrapped in each other, Marius's jacket draped over Bianca's shoulders, his arm tight around her waist, like he was afraid she'd vanish if he let go. The city had shifted while they'd been inside. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and gleaming under streetlights that turned puddles into mirrors. Luca waited by the car with 3 other men, all of them tense, weapons visible. "Volkov?" Marius asked. "Secured in the basement at the main office," Luca said. "Giorgio's watching him personally." "Good. Double the guard. I want eyes on him every second." "Already done, boss." They drove through Naples in silence, the city flowing past like a dream. Bianca sat pressed against Marius's side, his hand clasped in hers, both of them too wired to speak. Everything had changed in the span of an hour. The carefully maintained distance, the professional boundaries, the 3 years of pretending, all of it burned away like paper in a fire. She should feel relief, victory even. They'd survived, they'd found each other. Volkov was captured. Instead, a cold knot of unease sat in her stomach. Something felt wrong. The office building was lit up like a fortress when they arrived, every floor blazing with light, men posted at every entrance. Marius kept her close as they rode the elevator up, his thumb tracing circles on the back of her hand. The simple gesture felt impossibly intimate after years of careful distance. The doors opened to chaos, not the violent kind, the organized kind. Men moving with purpose, phones ringing, voices overlapping in rapid Italian and Russian. Giorgio met them in the hallway, his scarred face grim. "We've got a situation," he said without preamble. Marius's jaw tightened. "What kind?" Ferrano escaped, killed 2 of our men on his way out. When? 20 minutes ago. He had help. Someone on the inside let him out. The bottom dropped out of Bianca's stomach. A mole. Looks that way. Marius's hand released hers. She felt the absence like a physical wound. He was shifting, transforming from the man who'd kissed her in the warehouse to the cold, calculating strategist who'd built an empire on the backs of his enemies. Get everyone in the conference room, he said. Everyone who had access to that level. I want answers in the next 10 minutes. Giorgio nodded and disappeared. Marius turned to Bianca. Go to my office. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. I can help. Please. His voice cracked just slightly. Please, Bianca. I need to know you're safe while I handle this. The fear in his eyes convinced her more than any order could have. She nodded, rose on her toes to kiss him quickly, then headed down the hall. His office was exactly as they'd left it hours ago. Papers scattered across the desk, the map on the wall with its red and blue pins, coffee cups growing cold. She locked the door, leaned against it, and tried to breathe. A mole. Someone close enough to Marius to have access to the detention level. Someone who'd been working with Ferrano, and by extension Volkov, all along. Her mind raced through the possibilities. Luca? No, he'd been with her. Giorgio? He'd fought beside Marius for years. One of the newer recruits? Maybe, but they wouldn't have clearance. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, expecting Marius. Unknown number. A video file. She almost deleted it. Almost, but something made her click play. The screen filled with grainy footage from a security camera. She recognized the location immediately, the warehouse where they'd rescued her. But the timestamp was wrong. This was from before the meeting, before everything went to hell. The video showed Marius entering through a side door, alone, meeting with someone in the shadows. They talked for less than a minute. Then Marius handed over something. She couldn't see what. The other person nodded, disappeared. The footage cut to a different angle. The other person's face became visible for just a moment as they passed under a light. Bianca's blood turned to ice. It was Marco. Marco, the architect. Marco, who'd asked her on a date. Marco, who she'd left waiting at that restaurant. Marco, who apparently knew Marius. The video ended. A text message appeared. Ask him what really happened to Antonio's shipment. Ask him who really burned the warehouses. Ask him why he needed you to freeze Volkov's accounts. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. This had to be fake. Doctored. Volkov trying to create division, sow doubt, turn her against Marius. But the timestamp didn't lie. The footage looked real. And Marco's face, she'd know it anywhere. Another text. He played you. All of it. The attacks, the war, the danger. He orchestrated everything to make you dependent on him, to make you fall for him. Check the financial records you pulled. Look at who benefits from Volkov's accounts being frozen. No, this was manipulation, Volkov's last desperate gamble. But her fingers were already pulling up her laptop, accessing the files Paolo had given her, tracing the money flows she'd mapped so carefully. She found it buried 3 layers deep. A shell company called Adriatic Holdings, registered in Malta, owned by a consortium of investors whose names meant nothing to her. But the timing, it had been created 6 months ago, right when Volkov had started expanding into Naples. She dug deeper. The ownership structure was Byzantine, designed to hide the real controllers, but she was good at her job, better than good. She followed the threads, peeled back the layers, and found the truth buried at the core. Marius owned 40% of Adriatic Holdings. Volkov owned 30%. The rest was split between smaller investors, including, her stomach lurched, someone named M. Russo. Marco Russo. The room tilted. She grabbed the desk to steady herself. This couldn't be real. It couldn't. Marius wouldn't. He couldn't have. But the evidence was right there, in numbers that didn't lie. In transactions, she'd verified herself. Marius and Volkov were partners. The war was fake. Everything was fake. The door handle rattled. Bianca, open up. Marius's voice. Familiar. Warm. The same voice that had whispered, I love you, an hour ago. She stared at the door, paralyzed. Bianca. More insistent now. I know you're in there. We need to talk. Her voice came out strangled. About what? Silence. Long enough that her heart started hammering. About Marco, Marius said finally. About what you think you know. So it's true. Open the door and I'll explain. Explain through the door. Bianca, explain through the fucking door or I walk out of here and you never see me again. Another silence. Then, it's not what you think. You know Marco. Yes. He's your partner in Adriatic Holdings. It's complicated. Try me. She heard him shift on the other side of the door. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. Careful. Like he was trying to defuse a bomb. 6 months ago, Volkov approached me. He wanted to buy into Naples. I said no. He made threats. I made counter threats. We reached a stalemate. So you became partners. So we created a joint venture, a way for both of us to profit without going to war. Adriatic Holdings was supposed to be neutral ground. And Marco? He's a liaison, someone who could move between both our worlds without raising suspicion. And me? Her voice cracked. Where do I fit into this? You don't. You never did. This is separate. Bullshit. You sent him to me. You had him ask me on a date. No, that was Bianca, I swear. I had nothing to do with that. More lies. I'm not lying. Then why is there footage of you meeting him the day before the first warehouse burned? Why does the timeline of every attack line up perfectly with your meetings? Why did you need me to freeze Volkov's accounts if you're partners? The silence stretched so long she thought he'd left. Then, because the partnership fell apart. What? Volkov got greedy. Started moving on territory we'd agreed was mine. The warehouses, the attacks, those were real, Bianca. He was trying to squeeze me out. So you used me to fight back. I used your brilliance to fight back, yes. Did you know Volkov would take me? At the warehouse? Silence. Did you know? She screamed. I suspected he might try something. I didn't know what. The room spun. She pressed her forehead against the door, fighting nausea. You let me walk into a trap. I had men positioned. I was 30 seconds behind you. I would never have let anything happen. You used me as bait. No, Bianca, no. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. You were supposed to stay in the car. You were supposed to be safe. But you knew. You knew Volkov wanted to get to you through me, and you let it happen anyway. I made a calculation, a risk assessment. You thought what? That I was expendable? That I was just another piece on your chessboard? No, never. What about the dates with Marco? Did you tell him to keep me distracted? No. I told him to stay away from you. I told him if he so much as looked at you wrong, I'd cut his throat. Despite everything, she almost believed him. The jealousy in his voice was real, raw, the same jealousy she'd seen that first night when she told him about the date. But it didn't matter. None of it mattered. You lied to me, she said, for 6 months. About everything. Not everything. Not about, Bianca, what I said in that warehouse. What I feel for you. That's real. That's the only real thing in all of this. How would I know? How could I possibly know what's real and what's strategy? Because you know me. I thought I did. I was wrong. She heard him lean against the door, heard his breathing, harsh and uneven, heard the desperation creeping into his voice. Please, he said, please open the door. Let me see you. Let me explain properly. There's nothing to explain. You played me. You used me. You put me in danger to serve your own agenda. To protect my empire. To survive. Yes, but I never meant for you to get hurt. I never meant your intentions don't matter. The outcome does. Then look at the outcome. Volkov's captured. Ferrano's on the run. We won. You won. I'm just the collateral damage. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. Her laptop still showed the financial records. The truth laid bare in numbers and dates and shell companies. She thought about the last 6 months. Every late night, every crisis, every moment she'd thought they were building something together. It was all manipulation, all of it. I'm leaving, she said. No. You can't stop me. Bianca, if you walk out that door right now, you're in danger. Ferrano's still out there. Volkov has allies. They'll come after you to get to me. Then I'll disappear, change my name. Leave Italy. They'll find you. Then I'll deal with it. Anything's better than staying here. With you." The words came out colder than she'd intended. She heard his sharp intake of breath like she'd struck him. "You don't mean that," he said. "I do. You said you loved me." "I loved someone who doesn't exist. A version of you I made up in my head. Someone honest. Someone who valued me as more than a useful tool. I do value you, more than anything. You value what I can do for you. There's a difference." "No, Bianca, no. I love Don't. Don't say it again. It's just another manipulation. Another way to keep me where you want me." She heard something break in his voice. "How can I prove it to you? Tell me. Tell me what you need and I'll do it." "There's nothing. You can't unfake a war. You can't undo 6 months of lies." "Then what do you want from me?" "I want you to let me go." Silence. Absolute. Suffocating. Then she heard his footsteps moving away from the door, stopping, returning. "I can't do that," he said quietly. "You have to." "No, I don't. Because if you leave, you die. Volkov's people will hunt you. Ferrano will find you. Everyone I've ever wronged will see you as a way to hurt me." "Then kill Volkov. End this properly." "I will, I am, but it takes time." "How much time?" "I don't know. Days, weeks, years? As long as it takes." "So I'm a prisoner. You're protected." "Same thing." Another long silence. She could almost feel him thinking, calculating, trying to find the angle that would keep her with him. "1 week," he said finally. "Give me 1 week to end this completely, to make sure you're safe. Then if you still want to leave, I'll help you disappear. New identity, new life, enough money to start over anywhere in the world." "You'd let me go." "I'd hate it. I'd spend the rest of my life wishing I'd done things differently. But yes, if that's what you truly want, I'll let you go." She wanted to believe him, desperately wanted to believe that underneath all the lies and manipulation, there was still the man she'd fallen for, the one who'd kissed her like she was oxygen. But trust, once broken, was almost impossible to rebuild. 3 days, she said. "You have 3 days to clean this up, then I'm gone." "Bianca." 3 days, Marius. That's all you get." She heard him exhale, defeated, resigned. "Okay," he said. 3 days. His footsteps retreated. She waited until she heard the outer door close before she let herself slide down to the floor, back against the door, and finally let the tears come. She didn't sleep, couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the footage, Marco's face, the financial records, the elaborate lie that had consumed 6 months of her life. By dawn, she was hollow, empty, moving on autopilot. She unlocked the door around 6, half expecting to find Marius waiting in the hallway. Instead, she found Luca leaning against the wall, looking like he hadn't slept either. "Boss wants to see you," he said. "I'm sure he does." "Bianca?" Luca hesitated. "For what it's worth, I didn't know. About Volkov. About any of it." "How reassuring." "He's not a bad man. He's just a liar, a manipulator. Someone who uses people like chess pieces? Practical. He does what he has to do to survive." "And how many people has he sacrificed for that survival?" Luca's expression went carefully blank, which was answer enough. She found Marius in the conference room surrounded by maps and files and the remnants of what looked like an all-night strategy session. He looked worse than she felt. Eyes bloodshot, jaw shadowed with stubble, still wearing yesterday's blood-stained shirt. He stood when she entered. "You came. You have 3 days. I want to know what the plan is." Straight to business. Safer that way. If she let herself feel anything, she'd shatter. Marius gestured to the maps. "Volkov's organization has 3 main pillars. His financial network, which you've already crippled. His muscle, enforcers, soldiers, people who do the dirty work. And his political connections. People in power who look the other way. And you're going to dismantle all 3 in 72 hours. Yes, that's impossible. It's necessary." He met her eyes. "I meant what I said. 3 days, then you're free. Free to run for the rest of my life. Free to live however you want." She wanted to argue, to point out that there was no such thing as freedom when you were connected to someone like Marius. but exhaustion made her silent. "What do you need from me?" she asked instead. "Nothing. You've done enough." That wasn't the question. He studied her, and she saw the war happening behind his eyes. The part of him that wanted to use her skills, to leverage her brilliance one more time, and the part that wanted to protect her, even from himself. Practicality won. "Marco," he said, "he's the key to the political connections. If we can turn him, you want me to talk to him. You have a relationship. He trusts you." She laughed, sharp and bitter. "I have nothing with him. He was a plant, a spy, just like everything else. He has feelings for you, real ones. I've seen the way he looks at you. And you want me to use that. I want you to help me end this. By manipulating someone the way you manipulated me." Marius flinched. "It's not the same." "Isn't it?" "No, because you know the truth now. You're choosing this with full knowledge. There's no deception. Just coercion. Just necessity." They stared at each other across the table. The distance between them felt infinite. A week ago, she would have done anything he asked. Now every word felt like walking through broken glass. "Where is he?" she asked finally. "His apartment. We've had eyes on him since last night." "He doesn't know I know." "No." "So I show up, pretend everything's normal, get him to confess. Or turn on Volkov, whichever works. And if he refuses?" Marius's expression went cold. "Then we handle it another way." She knew what that meant. Blood, violence, the methods Marius had built his empire on. "I'll do it," she said. "But not for you." "Then why?" "Because I want this over. I want out. And the fastest way to get that is to help you burn it all down." "Fair enough." He started to say something else, then stopped. Looked at her like he was trying to memorize her face, like he already knew these were the last days he'd ever see her. Maybe he did. "Be careful," he said quietly. "I always am. Bianca, don't. Just don't." She left before he could finish whatever he was going to say. Marco's apartment was in a nice part of town, the kind of neighborhood where people jogged with expensive headphones and cafes, served coffee that cost more than a meal. Bianca stood outside his building, gathering courage. She could do this. She'd negotiated with criminals, manipulated bankers, orchestrated financial warfare. One conversation with a man who'd lied to her should be easy. It wasn't. She buzzed his apartment. He answered on the second ring, voice sleep rough. "Hello? It's Bianca." Silence. Then, "Come up." The door clicked open. She took the elevator to the fourth floor, found his door already ajar. Marco stood in the doorway wearing pajama pants and a t-shirt, hair mussed, looking genuinely surprised to see her. "This is unexpected," he said. "Can I come in?" "Of course, please." His apartment was exactly what she'd expected. Clean lines, modern furniture, architectural models on shelves. The life of someone who built things instead of destroying them. "Coffee?" he offered. "No, thank you." He poured himself a cup anyway, hands steady. Too steady for someone who'd just been surprised by an early morning visit from a woman he'd been spying on. "I'm glad you came," he said. "After you stopped responding to my texts, I thought, I know who you are." His hand paused halfway to his mouth. "Excuse me? I know you work for Marius. I know about Adriatic Holdings. I know all of it." He set the cup down carefully. The pleasant architect mask slipped, replaced by something sharper, calculating. "How long have you known?" he asked. "Since last night." "Marius told you." "Volkov showed me." Marco's expression flickered. "And you believed him." "I verified it myself." "Of course you did." He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "So why are you here? Did Marius send you?" "No one sends me anywhere." "Then what? You're here to confront me? Make me confess my sins?" "I'm here to understand. Why did you ask me out? Was that part of the job?" He looked at her for a long moment. Then he laughed, low and sad. "No, that was the one thing that wasn't. I was supposed to keep tabs on you, make sure you weren't looking too closely at certain accounts. The date was my idea. Because you're beautiful and brilliant. And I thought," he shook his head, I thought maybe I could have something real in the middle of all this fake bullshit. How touching. I mean it. Every conversation we had, every text, that was me, not the job. Me. And if I hadn't figured it out, if I'd actually fallen for you, then I would have told you the truth eventually, or tried to get out. I don't know. I hadn't gotten that far. Bianca moved to the window, looked down at the street below. Normal people living normal lives. She used to want that. Now it felt impossibly distant. Marius wants you to turn on Volkov, she said without looking at him. I figured. Will you? Why would I? Because Volkov's finished, his accounts are frozen, his organization is crumbling, and Marius won't stop until everyone connected to him is buried. Including me. Especially you. Marco was quiet. She could feel him thinking, weighing options, calculating survival odds. What's he offering? He asked. I don't know. Probably your life. That's it? No money? No protection? You'd have to ask him. But you think I should do it? She turned. I think you should do whatever lets you sleep at night. What about you? Can you sleep? The question hit harder than it should have. No, not really. Because of Marius. Because of all of it. Marco crossed to her, stopped a careful distance away. He's in love with you. You know that, right? He says a lot of things. This one's true. I've seen the way he watches you, the way he talks about you when you're not around. It's... He paused. It would be romantic if it wasn't so fucking tragic. There's nothing romantic about manipulation. No, there's not. But I don't think that's all it is. I think he's a man who's spent his whole life doing terrible things, and you're the first person who makes him want to be better. He has a funny way of showing it. Yeah, he does. Marco smiled, sad and knowing. You love him too, even after everything. I don't... Bianca, you wouldn't be here if you didn't. You'd have run, disappeared, started over, but you're still in Naples, still fighting his war, still trying to save him despite the lies. She wanted to deny it. Couldn't. The truth lodged in her throat like glass. It doesn't matter, she said finally. Love isn't enough. Not when there's no trust. Maybe, or maybe trust is something you build after the lies stop. You think his lies will stop? I think if anyone can make him honest, it's you. That's a lot of faith in someone you barely know. I'm a good judge of character. He moved to his desk, pulled out a laptop. Tell Marius I'll cooperate. I'll give him everything I have on Volkov's political network. Names, dates, payments, all of it. Just like that? I'm practical. Volkov's ship is sinking. I'd rather jump off than go down with it. What about loyalty? Loyalty is expensive, and I'm not getting paid enough to die for it. He plugged a USB drive into the laptop, started transferring files. Bianca watched him work. This man who'd lied to her, used her, and somehow still managed to see through her better than she saw through herself. For what it's worth, Marco said without looking up, I'm sorry. About the date. About all of it. You deserved better. Yeah, I did. The files finished transferring. He pulled out the USB, handed it to her. This is everything. Tell Marius we're even now. He leaves me alone. I leave Naples. He might not go for that. Then I guess I'll disappear before he can decide otherwise. She took the drive. Their fingers brushed. For a second, she saw the life she could have had. Safe, simple, with a man who built things instead of destroying them. It looked comfortable. Boring. Wrong. Good luck, Marco said. You too. She left, got in her car, sat there staring at the USB drive in her hand. This was it. The information Marius needed to dismantle Volkov's empire completely. 3 days would become 3 hours. The war would end. She'd be free to go. So why did it feel like losing? Her phone rang. Marius. She answered. I have it. Marco cooperated. Yes. Are you okay? The concern in his voice almost broke her. Fine, I'm coming back now. Bianca, I'll be there soon. She hung up before he could say whatever he was going to say, before she could hear the warmth in his voice and start believing in possibilities that didn't exist. The drive back felt longer than it should have. She watched the city pass, this place that had been her home for 3 years, and wondered where she'd go when this was over. Rome? Paris? Somewhere with no connections to Marius or Volkov or any of this. Somewhere she could forget. She was 2 blocks from the office when she saw it. Smoke. Rising from the building in thick black plumes, her heart stopped. She floored the accelerator, took the corner too fast, nearly hit a parked car. The office building was chaos. Fire trucks, police, people streaming out onto the street. Flames licked from the 40th floor windows. Marius's floor. She abandoned her car in the middle of the street, ran toward the building. A police officer tried to stop her. "You can't go in there, miss. People I know are inside. The building's being evacuated. If they're mobile, they'll come out." If? He didn't answer. Didn't need to. She scanned the crowd of people on the street, looking for Marius's face. For Luca. For anyone she recognized. Nothing. Then she saw Giorgio stumbling out of the entrance, coughing, covered in soot. "Giorgio!" She ran to him. "Where's Marius?" "Inside, top floor. The fire started in his office." "What?" "Explosion. Someone planted a bomb. He went back for something." She didn't wait to hear the rest. She was moving, pushing past the police barriers, toward the entrance. "Miss, you can't. Watch me." She made it 3 steps before someone grabbed her from behind. Luca, looking like he'd been through hell, holding her back with both arms. "Let go." "He's not up there, Bianca." Giorgio said. Giorgio's confused. "Marius got out. He's safe." "Then where?" Luca turned her around, pointed. Across the street, in the shadow of another building. Marius stood with his phone to his ear, watching the fire burn, expression unreadable. He was fine, completely fine, not a mark on him. And suddenly, with horrible clarity, Bianca understood. "He did this," she whispered. "Bianca!" "He set the fire in his own building. You don't know that." "Look at him, Luca. He's not surprised. He's not upset. He's watching his empire burn and he looks calm. There's an explanation. The explanation is that this is another manipulation, another move on his chessboard." She pulled free of Luca's grip, walked toward Marius. He saw her coming, ended his call, met her halfway. "Thank God you're safe," he said. "When I heard you were on your way back, did you do this?" "What?" "The fire. The explosion. Did you set it?" His face went carefully blank. "Of course not." "Liar." "Bianca, Volkov was in that building, in the basement, under heavy guard, and now the building's on fire, and I'm betting when they search the rubble, they won't find a body." Understanding flickered across his face, then resignation. "He escaped," Marius said quietly. "During the explosion, the guards were killed. He's gone." "How convenient." "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" He glanced around at the crowd, the police, the firefighters. "Not here. Come with me. I'll explain everything." "No, explain now, or I walk away and you never see me again." She meant it. He could see that. "Volkov had insurance," Marius said, voice low. "Information that would destroy me if it ever came to light. Names, dates, evidence of things I've done. The only copy was in his possession. I needed him out so I could retrieve it." "So you let him escape?" "So I created an opportunity, yes." "And the fire? The destruction? Your own men who were in that building were evacuated. Everyone got out. Everyone except Volkov's guards. Collateral damage." The casual way he said it made her stomach turn. "You murdered them to create a cover story." "I did what was necessary." "You always do, don't you? No matter who gets hurt." "Bianca, the 3 days were a lie too. You never intended to let me go. You were always going to find a reason to make me stay." "That's not true." "Isn't it? First it was Ferrano, then Volkov. Now it's this mysterious insurance policy. There's always going to be one more thing, one more crisis, one more reason I'm supposedly too valuable to leave." "I meant what I said. 3 days. You'll be free." "Free to what? Live in hiding? Look over my shoulder for the rest of my life waiting for Volkov's revenge?" "I'll protect you." "I don't want your protection. I want to be able to trust someone, anyone, and I can't. Not anymore, not after this." She was shaking, rage and grief and exhaustion all hitting at once. Behind them, the building continued to burn, the city she'd called home turning to ash. Marius reached for her. "Please, let me make this right." She stepped back. There is no making this right. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. I don't accept that. You don't have a choice. Bianca, I'm done with all of this, with you. I'll send you Marco's files. After that, we're finished. You can't mean that. Watch me. She turned to walk away. Made it 5 steps before she heard the gunshot. She hit the ground on instinct, covering her head. Screams erupted around her, people scattered. Another shot, then another. Luca was suddenly there, shoving her behind a car. Stay down! What's happening? Ambush, Ferrano's men. Of course it was. More gunfire. The sharp crack of it echoing off buildings. She risked a glance around the car, saw Marius with a gun in his hand, returning fire with mechanical precision. His men were scattered, pinned down, outgunned. This was how it ended. Not with manipulation, not with lies. With blood in the streets and bullets in the air, and the empire Marius had built collapsing around them. A figure appeared from behind the burning building. Ferrano himself, gun raised, aimed directly at Marius's back. Marius didn't see him, wouldn't see him until it was too late. Bianca moved without thinking, launched herself from behind the car, screaming, "Marius!" He turned, saw Ferrano, started to raise his weapon. Too slow. Ferrano's finger tightened on the trigger, and Bianca realized with horrible clarity that she was going to watch the man she loved die. The gunshot never came. Instead, a body slammed into Ferrano from the side, sending him sprawling. Giorgio, moving despite his injuries, despite the smoke still clinging to his clothes. The 2 men hit the pavement hard, Ferrano's gun skittering across the asphalt. Then chaos exploded. Marius's men surged forward. Ferrano's crew returned fire. The street became a war zone. Civilians screaming, running for cover, glass shattering from storefronts as bullets punched through windows. Bianca pressed herself against the car, heart hammering so hard she thought her ribs might crack. Luca fired over her head, the sound deafening. She could smell gunpowder, smoke from the burning building, her own fear sweat. This wasn't strategy. This wasn't careful planning. This was survival, raw and desperate. Move! Luca grabbed her arm, hauled her up. We need to get you out of here. Where's Marius? Handling it. Come on! He pulled her towards an alley. She resisted, twisting to look back. Marius was moving through the firefight like a predator, each shot precise, controlled. He dropped one of Ferrano's men, then another. No hesitation, no mercy. This was who he really was. Not the man who'd whispered, "I love you," in a warehouse. Not the strategist who'd built an empire on intelligence and patience. This was the killer underneath it all. The part of him that had survived by being more ruthless than everyone else. She should be terrified. She wasn't. A bullet ricocheted off the car beside her. Luca cursed, returned fire. Bianca, goddammit, move! This time she let him pull her into the alley. They ran, footsteps echoing off brick walls, her lungs burning. Behind them, the gunfire continued, a staccato rhythm that sounded like the city tearing itself apart. They burst onto a side street. Luca's car was there, engine already running. He shoved her into the passenger seat, threw himself behind the wheel. Where are we going? Safe house, North District. We can't just leave him. He gave orders. Get you out. That's what I'm doing. The car peeled away from the curb. Bianca twisted in her seat, watching the smoke rise from the office building, seeing the flash of muzzle fire in the street they'd just left. Everything Marius had built was burning. Everything she'd helped him protect was collapsing, and she was running. Turn around, she said. What? Turn the car around. Bianca. Now, Luca, or I jump out at the next light. He looked at her, saw she meant it, swore viciously in Italian. But he turned the car. They came back from a different direction, parking 3 blocks away. Bianca could still hear the gunfire, though it was sporadic now. Either the fight was winding down or someone was winning. She got out before Luca could stop her. If you get killed, the boss will murder me, he said, following. Then keep me alive. They moved through back streets, avoiding the main thoroughfare where police sirens were converging. Luca knew the city like the back of his hand, leading them through alleys and service entrances until they had a vantage point. The scene had shifted. Ferrano's men were retreating, dragging their wounded. Marius's crew held the street, weapons trained, but they weren't pursuing. In the center of it all, Marius stood over Giorgio, who was on the ground, clutching his side. Blood spread dark across his shirt. Shit, Luca breathed. Bianca was already moving. She crossed the street at a run, ignoring Luca's shouted warning. Marius saw her coming, his face twisting with fury and relief. "I told you to get out," he snarled. "Since when do I follow orders?" She dropped to her knees beside Giorgio. The wound was bad, deep, bleeding too fast. "We need an ambulance." "Already called," one of the men said. 5 minutes out." 5 minutes. Giorgio didn't have 5 minutes. Bianca pressed her hands against the wound, trying to slow the bleeding. Her palms came away red. Giorgio's eyes found hers unfocused. "Boss," he mumbled. "I'm here," Marius said, kneeling on his other side. "Stay with me, Giorgio. You hear me? Stay with me." "Got the bastard, didn't I?" "You got him. You saved my life." "Good." Giorgio's breathing was wet, labored. Tell her the money's in the apartment, behind the painting." "You'll tell her yourself." "Boss, that's an order, Giorgio. You don't get to die today." But they both knew orders meant nothing against blood loss, against a bullet that had punched through vital organs, against the reality that sometimes loyalty cost everything. The ambulance arrived in a scream of sirens. Paramedics swarmed, pushing Bianca aside, working with frantic efficiency. They loaded Giorgio onto a stretcher, into the back of the ambulance. It screamed away into traffic. Marius stood slowly. His hands were covered in blood. So were Bianca's. "He's not going to make it," she said quietly. "I know." Around them, his men were securing the area, checking the bodies, collecting weapons. Professional, efficient. Like this was just another day. Maybe for them it was. "Ferrano got away," Luca reported, appearing at Marius's shoulder. "I know that too." "He'll regroup, come back harder." "Let him try." Marius turned to look at the burning building. "It doesn't matter anymore." "What do you mean it doesn't matter?" Bianca asked. He met her eyes. "Because after today, there won't be anything left to fight over." Before she could ask what he meant, his phone rang. He answered, listened, his expression going carefully blank. "Understood. I'm on my way." He ended the call, turned to his men. "Luca, take everyone to the secondary location. Wait for my signal." "Boss, you need backup." "No, I need you to follow orders for once." His voice was steel. "All of you, secondary location. Now." They didn't like it, but they moved, scattering to various vehicles, engines starting, tires squealing. Within 2 minutes, the street was empty except for Bianca and Marius and the burning building behind them. "What was the call?" she asked. "Volkov, he wants to meet." "It's a trap." "Obviously." "Then why?" "Because this ends tonight, one way or another." He started walking toward his car. She followed. "You're not going alone." "Yes, I am." "The hell you are." He stopped, turned. "Bianca, I've put you in enough danger. I've lied to you, used you, nearly gotten you killed twice in one day. I'm not—" "Shut up." "Excuse me?" "I said shut up. You don't get to make this decision for me. Not anymore." "I'm trying to protect you." "I don't need your protection. I need you to stop treating me like I'm fragile, like I'm some asset to be managed." "You're not an asset. You're—" He stopped, started again. "You're the only thing in my life that matters." "Then let me choose. Let me decide if I want to walk into danger with you or watch you do it alone." "Why would you choose that, after everything?" "Because—" The word stuck. Truth was still hard. "Because despite the lies, despite the manipulation, despite all of it, I can't watch you die." "That's not love. That's trauma bonding." "Maybe. Or maybe it's both." She moved closer. "You said I had 3 days. Then you burned your own building and let Volkov escape. You lied again." "I know. And you'll probably lie again, because that's who you are. A man who does whatever it takes to survive." "Yes. But you know what? I'm the same. I'm standing here covered in blood from a man who might be dying because of me. I just ran into a firefight instead of escaping. I'm choosing to go with you to meet a Russian mobster who wants us both dead." She laughed, sharp and broken. "We're both liars. We're both survivors. Maybe that's why this works." "This doesn't work. Look around, Bianca. Everything's burning. Then let's burn it all the way down, together." He stared at her. The sirens were getting closer. Police, more ambulances, fire trucks. They needed to move. But he stood frozen, looking at her like she was something impossible, something precious that he didn't deserve. "If you come with me," he said quietly, "there's a good chance we don't survive." "I know. And if we do survive, there's a good chance I'll disappoint you again, lie again, choose survival over honesty." "I know that too." "Then why?" "Because the alternative is walking away and spending the rest of my life wondering what if, and I'm tired of running from the truth." "What truth?" "That I love you. Even though I shouldn't, even though you're dangerous and dishonest and probably going to get me killed, I love you anyway." The confession hung in the air between them. No taking it back now, no pretending anymore. Marius closed the distance in 2 strides, kissed her hard enough to bruise. She kissed him back, tasting blood and smoke and desperation. When they broke apart, they were both shaking. "If we survive this," he said, "I'm going to spend the rest of my life making this right. And if we don't, then at least we die honest." They got in the car. The meeting location was an abandoned shipyard on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place where bodies disappeared into the Mediterranean and nobody asked questions. Bianca sat in the passenger seat as Marius drove, watching the city give way to industrial wasteland. "What's your plan?" she asked. "Don't have one." "Liar." He almost smiled. "Volkov wants the financial records, the proof that he's been operating in Naples. He thinks if he has that, he can leverage his political connections, make this all go away." "Do you have them?" "Copies, yes." "And the originals?" "Destroyed. In the fire." "So this is a trade, records for our lives." "Something like that." "You're going to give him fakes?" Now he did smile. "See? You know me too well." "Will he fall for it?" "For about 5 minutes, long enough for us to get clear. And then?" "Then he comes after us with everything he has, and we're ready." Bianca looked at him. "You want him to come after us? That's the real plan. Flush him out, make him commit everything to one final attack." "Yes." "So we're bait again." "We're always bait. Difference is this time, you know it." She should be angry, should feel manipulated. Instead, she felt strangely calm, clear. This was the game. She'd known it from the moment she'd chosen to stay. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. "Stay in the car." "Absolutely not. Bianca, we do this together or not at all. Those were the terms." He exhaled slowly. "Fine. But you stay behind me. You don't speak unless I tell you to. And if shooting starts, you run. Deal." The shipyard appeared ahead, skeletal cranes rising against the night sky, rusted containers stacked like a maze. Marius parked near the entrance, killed the engine. The silence was absolute. "He's here," Marius said quietly, nodding toward a black Mercedes parked 50 yards away. "How many men?" "Can't tell. At least 4 in the car. Probably more hidden." "We're outnumbered." "We're always outnumbered." They got out. The air smelled like salt and rust and old oil. Bianca's heart hammered against her ribs, but her hands were steady. Fear was just another tool. She'd learned that from Marius. Volkov emerged from the Mercedes. He looked composed despite everything. Suit pressed, hair combed, the picture of a man in control. 4 guards flanked him, weapons visible. "Orlov," Volkov called. "And Miss Varelli. How touching that you brought your pet." "She's not my pet," Marius said. "She's my partner." "Even better, I get to kill you both." "I thought we were here to negotiate." "We are. I negotiate, then I kill you." Volkov smiled. "You have what I asked for?" Marius held up a USB drive. "Everything. 6 months of transactions. Enough to bury you if it ever goes public. And in exchange, you leave. Tonight. You take your men, your money, your organization, and you get the fuck out of my city. Your city." Volkov laughed. "Naples was never yours, boy. You were just keeping it warm for me." "Then why are all your accounts frozen? Why are your political contacts refusing your calls? Why did Ferrano abandon you the second things got difficult?" Volkov's smile thinned. "Temporary setbacks." "Keep telling yourself that." Marius tossed the USB. It landed at Volkov's feet. One of the guards picked it up, plugged it into a laptop. They waited. Bianca counted heartbeats. 20, 30, 40. The guard nodded. It's real, sir. Of course it's real, Marius said. I'm many things, but I'm not stupid enough to bring you fakes. Volkov studied him. You're letting me walk away. Why? Because I'm tired. Because this war has cost me too much already. Because I'd rather rebuild in peace than keep fighting a battle that has no winners. It was a good lie. Delivered perfectly. Volkov almost bought it. Almost. You're planning something, the old Russian said. I'm planning to survive, same as you. No. Men like us don't settle for survival. We settle for victory. Volkov's hand moved to his jacket. Which is why I can't let you walk out of here. Then we have a problem. Everything happened at once. Volkov drew his weapon. Marius was faster, gun appearing from somewhere, shot cracking across the shipyard. Volkov's guards returned fire. Bianca dove behind a container, ears ringing, adrenaline spiking so hard her vision went sharp and clear. Marius was moving, using cover, each shot calculated. One guard down, two. But there were more. Emerging from behind containers, from inside buildings, at least a dozen. They were surrounded. Bianca looked around frantically. No weapons, no backup, just her and Marius against impossible odds. Then headlights blazed to life. 3 cars roared into the shipyard from different directions. Luca behind the wheel of one, the rest of Marius's crew and the others. They'd followed anyway. Disobeyed orders. Chosen loyalty over safety. The tide shifted. Gunfire erupted from all sides. Volkov's men were caught in a crossfire, pinned down. Marius used the chaos to move, closing the distance to Volkov himself. Bianca saw what he was doing, saw the risk. If Volkov got off a shot, she ran, broke from cover, sprinting across open ground. Someone shouted. Bullets kicked up asphalt beside her feet. She didn't stop. Marius reached Volkov first, slammed into him, both men going down. The gun flew from Volkov's hand. They grappled, rolling, each trying to gain advantage. Bianca reached them, grabbed Volkov's dropped weapon. It was heavier than she'd expected, cold, deadly. She raised it, hand shaking, aimed at Volkov's head. Don't, Marius grunted, pinning the older man down. Not like this. Why not? He'll kill us if we let him live. Because you're not a killer. Don't become one for me. I already did. The second I chose to stay. Volkov laughed, breathless and vicious. Listen to him. So noble, so protective. He really does love you. Shut up, Bianca said. What happens after tonight, Miss Varelli? You think you can build a life with him? You think this ends with happiness? Volkov's eyes were bright with malice. He'll destroy you. That's what men like us do. We destroy everything we touch. He's right, Marius said quietly, looking up at her. I will disappoint you. I will lie. I will make choices that hurt you. I know. Then why are you still here? Because perfection is boring. Because normal is a lie. Because... She steadied the gun, met his eyes. Because I'd rather have broken and real than safe and fake. The moment stretched. Around them, the firefight was winding down. Most of Volkov's men were down or fleeing. Marius's crew was securing the perimeter. They'd won. But victory tasted like ashes. What do we do with him? Bianca asked. Marius stood slowly, pulling Volkov up with him. The old Russian was beaten, bleeding, but still defiant. We let the system handle it, Marius said. Volkov laughed. The system? You're going to hand me over to police? With all I know about you? No, not the police. Marius pulled out his phone, made a call. It's done. He's yours. He hung up. 2 minutes later, black SUVs arrived. Men in suits got out. Not Marius's people. Not police. Something else. Who are they? Bianca asked. Volkov's former partners, the ones he betrayed to expand into Italy. They've been looking for him for a long time. Volkov's face went white. You can't. Orlov, please. We can make a deal. We're past deals. The men took Volkov, dragging him toward the SUVs. His protests echoed across the shipyard, then were cut off as they threw him in the back. The SUVs left. Silence fell. Marius's crew emerged from cover. They'd lost 2 men. Bianca could see the bodies being carried, covered with jackets. The price of victory. Always a price. Luca approached, blood on his face, but alive. Orders, boss? Clean this up, pay the families, double the usual. And Ferrano? He'll come. When he does, we'll be ready. Luca nodded, moved away. The crew started working, efficient despite exhaustion. This was their world, violence and loyalty and the aftermath. Marius turned to Bianca. You okay? She looked down at her hands, still holding the gun, still shaking. I almost killed him, she said. But you didn't. Because you stopped me. Because you're better than that. Am I? I don't feel better. I feel... The word wouldn't come. She let the gun drop, pressed her hands to her face. I don't know what I feel. He pulled her against his chest, held her while she shook. It's okay. You're okay. Giorgio? At the hospital. Critical. Luca's brother is there, waiting for news. This is my fault, all of it. If I hadn't frozen the accounts, Volkov would have found another excuse. This was always coming. You just made sure we won. We haven't won. Ferrano's still out there. He's one man, scared, running. We'll find him. And then what? More killing? More blood? When does it end? When we're safe. When everyone who wants us dead is gone. That's never. There will always be someone. He pulled back just enough to see her face. Then we keep fighting. Together. Like you said. She wanted to argue, to point out the insanity of it, but exhaustion was setting in, adrenaline crash making her limbs heavy. Take me home, she said. Yours or mine? Does it matter? No, I suppose it doesn't. They got in the car, drove through empty streets as dawn started breaking. The city looked different in the early light, gentler, like the violence of the night had been a bad dream. But the blood on her hands was real. The bodies in the shipyard were real. Giorgio fighting for his life was real. This was her life now. Not strategy sessions and financial analysis, not the clean, controlled world she'd built for herself. This was blood and bullets and impossible choices. And somehow, she'd chosen it anyway. They ended up at Marius's apartment, a penthouse she'd never been to, all glass and steel and minimalist furniture that looked like nobody really lived there. He poured them both whiskey, handed her a glass. To survival, he said. To survival. They drank. The whiskey burned. Good. She needed to feel something besides numb. Get some rest, Marius said. We have a few hours before Ferrano makes his move. You know when he's coming? Soon. Tonight. Maybe tomorrow. Men like him can't help themselves. They need revenge more than they need safety. Like you. Like me. She set down the glass, moved to the window. The city spread below, waking up. People going to work. Living normal lives. She'd been one of them once, felt like a lifetime ago. What happens after? She asked. After Ferrano? After all of it. After the war ends and the bodies are buried and there's nothing left to fight. Marius came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. We figure out who we are when we're not fighting for survival. Think we'll like what we find? I don't know, but I'd like to find out. She leaned back against him, let herself have this moment of peace. It wouldn't last. Peace never did in their world. But for now, wrapped in his arms, watching the sun rise over a city they'd fought to keep, it was enough. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Roof, now. Come alone, or Luca dies. Her blood went cold. Marius? He read over her shoulder, his body going rigid. Ferrano. He has Luca. Impossible. Luca was at the shipyard 20 minutes ago. Another text. A photo. Luca, tied to a chair, blood running down his face. Very much alive. Very much in danger. Roof of what building? Bianca asked. Another text. Yours. She lived 15 blocks away. Ferrano was at her apartment building, right now. It's a trap, Marius said. Of course it's a trap. Then we don't go. He'll kill Luca. Luca knew the risks. She turned to face him. You'd let him die? I'd let everyone die to keep you safe. That's not your choice to make. Bianca, he saved your life. Back at the office. And now he's going to die because of us. She grabbed her phone. I'm going. Not alone, you're not. The message said, I don't care what the message said. We go together or not at all. He was already moving, grabbing weapons, checking ammunition. Call Giorgio's brother. Tell him to get every available man to your building. Quiet. No sirens. Giorgio's brother? Franco. He'll help. He owes me. She made the call. Franco answered on the first ring, voice rough with exhaustion and grief. Miss Varelli? Ferrano has Luca at my building. Marius needs backup. A pause. Then, how many men? All of them. My brother? Still in surgery. Then I'm coming personally. 20 minutes. Make it 15. They raced across the city, running red lights, the car weaving through early morning traffic. Bianca's mind was spinning. How had Ferrano grabbed Luca? When? The timeline didn't make sense unless... It wasn't at the shipyard, she said. What? Luca. He wasn't at the shipyard. Someone else was driving his car. Marius swore. He was grabbed earlier, when he was taking you to the safe house. But we saw him. We saw someone in his car, with his crew. We assumed, so Ferrano's had him for hours. Which means this whole thing, the shipyard, Volkov, all of it, was cover, a distraction. While Ferrano positioned himself for the real attack, they locked eyes. He wants you, Marius said. He's always wanted you, the key to destroying me. Then let's give him what he wants. Her building appeared ahead, normal, quiet, no sign of trouble. But Ferrano was up there, waiting. They parked 2 blocks away. Franco arrived with 6 men, hard-eyed, armed, loyal. Giorgio's brother looked like an older, scarred version of his sibling, just as dangerous. Plan? He asked Marius. You cover the exits, nobody leaves. And you? We go up. End this. Franco nodded. His men dispersed. Marius turned to Bianca. Last chance. You can walk away. Right now. I'll handle this. No. Bianca, I'm done running, done hiding. If Ferrano wants me, he can try to take me. But I'm not making it easy. He kissed her. Hard. Desperate. Like it might be the last time. Then they walked into her building. The elevator ride up felt eternal. 15 floors. Each one bringing them closer to the confrontation that had been building since the moment she told Marius about her date with Marco. How long ago was that? A week? Less? Felt like years. The elevator dinged, doors opened. Her apartment door was ajar. They moved carefully, weapons drawn. Marius went first, clearing corners with practiced efficiency. Bianca followed, heart hammering, every sense heightened. The apartment was dark, silent. Then a voice from the balcony. About time! Ferrano sat in her chair, Luca kneeling beside him, hands bound, mouth gagged. A gun pressed against Luca's temple. Let him go, Marius said. No, I don't think I will. Ferrano smiled. Close the door, Bianca, unless you want your friend's brain decorating your nice clean floor. She closed it. Good girl. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk over here, slow, no weapons, and you're going to take Luca's place. Why would I do that? Because otherwise I kill him. Then I kill you anyway. At least this way he lives. Don't, Luca mumbled around the gag. Ferrano hit him, hard, blood sprayed. Shut up, the adults are talking. Bianca met Marius's eyes, saw the calculation there. He was looking for an angle, a shot, a way to end this without losing anyone. There wasn't one. Okay, she said. Let me... No, Marius cut in. Marius, no. We find another way. There is no other way. Look at him. He's going to kill Luca anyway. Smart girl, Ferrano said. I probably will, but at least this way, there's a chance. Come on, Bianca. Clock's ticking. She started forward. Marius grabbed her arm. Don't do this. It's already done. She pulled free, walked toward Ferrano. Each step felt like drowning, like choosing death. But Luca had saved them, had followed despite orders, had been loyal when he could have run. He deserved better than a bullet for his trouble. She reached Ferrano. He grabbed her wrist, yanked her down to her knees beside Luca. The gun moved from Luca's head to hers, cold metal against her temple. There we go, Ferrano said. Perfect. Marius raised his weapon. Let her go. Or what? You'll shoot me? Go ahead. My finger's on the trigger. I die. She dies. Then we're at an impasse. No. We're at an ending. Ferrano's grip tightened on Bianca's wrist. You took everything from me, my position, my respect, my future. Now I take everything from you. I'll give you money, access to new territory, whatever you want. I want to watch you suffer. The gun pressed harder against her skull. Bianca closed her eyes, waiting for the shot. It didn't come. Instead, glass shattered. The window behind Ferrano exploded inward. Franco came through it like an avenging spirit, tackle taking Ferrano to the ground. The gun went off, deafening, too close, but the bullet went wild. Marius moved faster than thought, grabbing Bianca and pulling her away. Luca rolled, hands still bound but fighting to get clear. Ferrano and Franco grappled. The gun changed hands. Changed again. Then a shot. Wet. Final. Franco stood slowly. Ferrano didn't. Blood spread across her apartment floor, dark and thick. The man who'd started all of this lay still, eyes open but seeing nothing. It was over. Marius cut Luca's bonds. You good? Been better. Luca spat blood. Thanks for the rescue. Thank Franco. He's the one who climbed 15 floors on the outside of the building. Franco shrugged, wiping blood from his face. My brother would have done the same. How is Giorgio? Bianca asked. Out of surgery. Critical but stable. They think he'll make it. Relief hit like a wave. She sagged against Marius, let him hold her up. It's done, he said quietly. Volkov's gone. Ferrano's dead. It's over. But it wasn't. She could feel it. The weight of what they'd done. The bodies they'd left behind. The lines they'd crossed. What now? She whispered. Marius looked down at her. In the growing light she could see every scar, every line, every mark that violence had left on him. Now? He brushed hair from her face. Now we figure out how to live. Think we can? I don't know, but I'd like to try. Outside, sirens wailed, getting closer. Franco's men were already moving, cleaning up, disappearing like ghosts. Their world, their rules, their war. And somehow, against all odds, they'd survived it. Bianca looked at the man holding her, this beautiful, dangerous, impossible man, and made her choice. Not safety. Not normal. Not the architect who built museums. This. Him. The chaos and the violence and the terrifying, exhilarating truth of it all. Okay, she said. Let's try. He kissed her as the sun rose fully over Naples, bathing the city in golden light. The war was over. Their story was just beginning. The police came exactly 14 minutes after the gunshot. Bianca watched from the balcony as the cars pulled up, lights flashing, but no sirens now. They knew what they'd find. In a city like Naples, everyone always knew. The question was never what happened, but who would take the blame. Franco met them at the entrance. She couldn't hear the conversation, but she could read the body language. Hands exchanging something, probably cash, heads nodding in understanding. The lead officer glanced up at her apartment, made a note on his pad, then got back in his car. The police left. Just like that. They're not coming up? She asked. Maria stood beside her, watching the cars disappear into morning traffic. No. Ferrano was wanted for questioning in 6 murders. As far as they're concerned, justice was served. That's not justice. No, it's Naples. Inside, Franco's men were finishing the cleanup. They worked with disturbing efficiency. Plastic sheeting, industrial cleaners, the kind of experience that spoke to years of making bodies disappear. Luca supervised despite his injuries, giving orders in low tones. This was her apartment, her home, the place she'd decorated with art and books and all the markers of a normal life. Now it was a crime scene being erased by professionals. I can't stay here, she said quietly. I know, I have a place, outside the city. It's safe. Is anywhere safe? No, but it's safer than here. She went inside to pack. Her hands moved on autopilot. Clothes, toiletries, the essentials. Everything else felt contaminated, tainted by violence. She left most of it behind. Marius waited by the door, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Concern, maybe. Or guilt. Or the bone-deep exhaustion that came from fighting too long, too hard. Ready? He asked. She looked around one last time. At the living room where she'd planned a future that didn't include blood on the floors. At the kitchen where she'd imagined cooking meals for friends who weren't criminals. At the life she'd tried to build and failed to protect. Yeah, she said. I'm ready. They left through the service entrance. Franco had already positioned men to make sure they weren't followed. The city was waking up fully now. Shops opening, people heading to work, the normal rhythm of life continuing like nothing had happened. Maybe that was the truth of it. Nothing had happened that mattered to anyone beyond their small, violent circle. The world kept turning. People kept living. Only she and Marius carried the weight of what they'd done. The safe house was 40 minutes north, nestled in the hills where vineyards gave way to forest. A stone villa that looked like it had been standing since before empires fell, beautiful in a worn, permanent way. How long have you had this place? Bianca asked as they pulled through the gates. 10 years. I bought it when I first came to Naples. Thought I might need somewhere to run if things went bad. Did you ever use it? Once, after a deal went wrong and I had half of Rome looking for my head. He parked in front of the main house. I stayed here 3 months. Alone. Nearly went insane from the quiet. She could picture it. Marius in this beautiful, peaceful place, crawling out of his skin because men like him weren't built for peace. Inside, the villa was surprisingly comfortable. Stone floors, wooden beams, furniture that was simple but well made. A fireplace dominated the main room. Windows looked out over hills that rolled toward the sea. There's food in the kitchen, Marius said. Bedrooms upstairs. Take whichever you want. Where will you sleep? Wherever you're not. Unless... He stopped, started again. Unless you want company. 6 hours ago, they'd been fighting for their lives. 4 hours ago, she'd had a gun to her head. 2 hours ago, they'd watched a man die on her apartment floor. The sensible thing would be space, distance, time to process. She kissed him instead. He responded with this kind of desperate hunger that spoke to how close they'd come to losing everything. They made it to the couch before the need became too much. Clothes discarded in a trail, skin against skin, the physical confirmation that they were alive, they'd survived, they were here. Afterward, they lay tangled together, breathing hard, the afternoon sun slanting through the windows. This doesn't fix anything, Bianca said quietly. I know. You still lied, still manipulated, still put me in danger. I know that too. So why does it feel like maybe we can survive this? He traced patterns on her shoulder. Because we already did. Everything that could have broken us didn't. Maybe that means something. Or maybe we're just two damaged people who don't know any better. Maybe it's both. She closed her eyes. Exhaustion was catching up, dragging her down. But she fought it, afraid that if she slept, she'd wake up and find this was all a dream. Or a nightmare. She couldn't tell the difference anymore. Giorgio called while you were packing, Marius said. He's awake, asking for you. Me? He said you held his hand. Kept him conscious until the ambulance came. He wants to thank you. I didn't do anything. The paramedics? You were there. That's what mattered. Guilt twisted in her chest. He got shot protecting you. Because of choices I made. Because I froze Volkov's accounts and started this whole war. No, he got shot because Ferrano was a coward who attacked instead of negotiating. Because Volkov was greedy. Because this city runs on violence and blood. Marius tilted her face toward his. You didn't create this world, Bianca. You just learned to survive in it. At what cost? That's what we need to figure out. She pulled away, stood, wrapped herself in a blanket. Through the window, the hills were turning gold in the late afternoon light, peaceful, deceptive. I need to understand something, she said. The partnership with Volkov, Adriatic Holdings. When did it really fall apart? Marius sat up, reached for his shirt. 3 months ago. He wanted to expand faster than we'd agreed. Started moving on territory that was supposed to be neutral ground. So you fought back. Not at first. I tried negotiation, compromise. But Volkov doesn't understand those concepts. He only understands power. So you orchestrated the war. Made it look like he was attacking you when really you were maneuvering him into a trap. Yes and no. The attacks were real. The violence was real. But I controlled the narrative. Made sure it escalated in ways I could manage. And me? Where did I fit in your strategy? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw. At first, you were a tool. Someone brilliant enough to trace his finances, loyal enough not to question my orders. I needed you to freeze his accounts, cut his funding, isolate him. And the rest? The jealousy when I mentioned Marco, the way you looked at me? That was real. That was always real. He stood, came to her. I've been in love with you for 2 years, maybe longer. I told myself it was just attraction, chemistry, something I could control. But the night you told me about that date, he shook his head. I realized I was lying to myself, that what I felt was so much deeper than strategy. So you use those feelings, let them drive your decisions. Yes, and I'm sorry. I should have been honest from the start. Should have told you about Volkov, about the partnership, about all of it. But I was afraid. Of what? That you'd leave. That you'd see me for what I really am, a man who uses people, who lies, who chooses survival over honor and decide I wasn't worth the risk. She looked at him, really looked, at the scars on his chest from fights she'd never know about, at the exhaustion in his eyes from carrying an empire on his shoulders, at the vulnerability he was showing her now, stripped of all pretense. You're right, she said. You're not worth the risk. You're dangerous and dishonest, and you've put me through hell. His face went carefully blank. I understand, but she moved closer. I'm not any better. I stayed knowing what you were. I helped you build this war. I made choices that got people killed. I'm just as complicit. That's not... It is. I could have walked away a dozen times, could have reported you to authorities, could have exposed everything, but I didn't, because somewhere along the way, I stopped caring about right and wrong. I just cared about winning, about you. Bianca. So here's what I need from you. No more lies, no more manipulation. If we're going to do this, really do this, I need complete honesty, even when it's ugly, even when you think it'll hurt me. I can do that. Can you? Because your whole life is built on deception. Can you actually be honest with someone? He took her hands. I don't know, but I want to try. For you. For us. That's not good enough. Then what is? Prove it right now. Tell me something you've never told anyone, something real and ugly and true. He stared at her. She could see the war happening behind his eyes, the instinct to protect himself warring with the need to keep her. Finally, he spoke. When I was 17, my father tried to have me killed. The words hung in the air. Bianca waited. He'd built an organization in Moscow, brutal, efficient, everything I learned from watching him. But I was ambitious, reckless. I made a move on one of his rivals without permission. Won, brought in territory and money and respect. Marius's voice was flat, emotionless. He saw it as a threat, as a challenge, so he sent his best man to put a bullet in my head. What happened? I killed him first. Then I ran, came to Italy, started over. He met her eyes. My father's still alive, still running his empire in Moscow. And every day I wonder if he's going to try again. Is that why you came to Naples, to build something he couldn't touch? Yes, and because I wanted to prove I could do it better than him. Build an empire without the sadism, without the senseless violence. Did you? I don't know. Some days I think I'm just a different version of the same monster. Other days I think maybe I'm slightly less terrible. He laughed, bitter. Not exactly a ringing endorsement. Bianca absorbed this. A father who'd ordered his own son killed. A life built on running, on proving worth, on surviving at any cost. Do you ever talk to him? She asked. No. The last time we spoke, he told me I was dead to him. That if I ever set foot in Russia again, he'd finish what he started. And your mother? Died when I was 8, cancer. After that, it was just him and the organization. The pieces were falling into place. The control, the inability to trust. The constant calculation. Marius had been raised in a world where even family would betray you. I'm sorry, she said. Don't be. It made me who I am. A man who can't trust anyone. A man who survived. Those aren't the same thing. No, they're not. She pulled him close, held him, this broken, dangerous man who'd somehow become everything to her. Thank you for telling me. That's it? No judgment? No horror? What would be the point? We've all got damage. Mine's just different. What's yours? Fair question. He'd shown her his scars. She owed him the same. My father left when I was 6, she said. Just walked out one day and never came back. My mother told me he died. Car accident. I believed her for years. She pulled back, met his eyes. Then when I was 16, I saw him. In Rome. With a whole other family. Wife, kids, the life he should have had with us. Did you confront him? No. I watched him for an hour, saw how happy he looked, how complete. And I realized he hadn't died. He'd just chosen a different life. One that didn't include me. Jesus, Bianca. Yeah. So I learned early that people leave, that love isn't permanent, that you can't trust someone just because they're supposed to care about you. She smiled, sad. Maybe that's why I stayed, why I keep choosing you despite the lies. Because at least with you, I know what I'm getting, honest dishonesty. That's the most depressing thing I've ever heard. Welcome to my psychology. They stood there, wrapped in each other's damage, and somehow it felt more intimate than anything they'd shared before. This was the real them. Not the strategist and the criminal, not the assistant and the boss, just two people who'd been broken by the world and were trying to figure out if they could build something whole together. What happens now? Marius asked. Now we sleep, really sleep, for the first time in a week. And after? After we figure out what our life looks like when we're not fighting for it. They went upstairs. The master bedroom was simple, stone walls, a massive bed, windows that overlooked the valley. Bianca collapsed into the mattress, Marius beside her, and for the first time in days she felt safe enough to let go. She slept for 14 hours. When she woke, the sun was rising again. A full day had passed. Marius was gone, but she could hear sounds from downstairs, voices, movement. She dressed in clean clothes she found in the closet, went down. The villa's main room had been transformed into a war room of a different kind. Maps on the walls, laptops open, but instead of tracking enemies, they were tracking reconstruction. Marius stood at the center, talking with Giorgio, who was there despite doctor's orders, bandaged and pale but alive. Luca was there too, bruised but grinning, Franco. 3 others she didn't recognize. They all looked up when she entered. Morning, Marius said. Coffee's in the kitchen. She poured herself a cup, joined them. What's all this? Rebuilding. The office is gone. Half our warehouses are damaged. We need to reorganize. Thought you might take some time off. Can't afford to. Nature abhors a vacuum. If we don't fill the space Volkov left, someone else will. She'd expected this. Known it, really. Men like Marius didn't retire. They just moved from one war to the next. What do you need from me? She asked. Nothing. You've done enough. That wasn't the question. He smiled. Financial restructuring. The accounts we froze need to be redistributed. Legitimately, if possible. Legitimately. Or as close as we can get. She set down her coffee. You're trying to go clean. Cleaner. There's a difference. Giorgio spoke up, his voice rough. We've been discussing it. The war cost us too much. Good men died. We barely survived. Maybe it's time to transition. Move into legitimate business. You think that's possible? Bianca asked. Probably not entirely. But we can try. Reduce the violence, increase the legal operations. Become the kind of organization that doesn't attract wars. She looked at Marius. Is this really what you want? I want to be able to sleep without wondering who's coming for me. I want to build something that lasts beyond the next gang war, and I want... He paused. I want a life where the woman I love doesn't have to worry about getting shot every time she leaves the house. The room went quiet. Everyone looked at her. The woman you love, she repeated. Yes. In front of witnesses. Yes. You realize you just made this real. Good. I'm tired of pretending. Luca cleared his throat. Boss, you want us to give you two some privacy? No, stay. You should all hear this. Marius crossed to Bianca, took her hands. I'm offering you a partnership, real one, not employer and employee, not strategist and criminal, equal partners in everything. Everything? Business, life, all of it. That's... She laughed, overwhelmed. That's insane. Probably, but I'm asking anyway. She looked around the room, at Giorgio, who'd nearly died for them, at Luca, who'd been loyal despite having every reason to run, at Franco and the others who'd risked everything to save them. This was family. Broken, violent, complicated family, but family nonetheless. Okay, she said. Okay? Yes. Partnership, all of it. Yes. The room erupted. Giorgio grinned despite the pain it must have caused his injuries. Luca whooped. Franco just nodded, satisfied. Marius kissed her, not desperate this time, soft, promising, real. We have a lot of work to do, he said when they broke apart. When don't we? Fair point. They spent the next week at the villa, planning, restructuring, building something new from the ashes of what had burned. Bianca coordinated with banks, lawyers, accountants. She set up legitimate holding companies, transferred assets, created paper trails that would survive scrutiny. It was the same work she'd done for Volkov's empire, but in reverse, building instead of destroying. Marius handled personnel, met with his lieutenants, explained the new direction. Some resisted, a few left, but most stayed, willing to try something different. Giorgio recovered slowly but steadily. He spent hours with Franco, training him to take over operations, passing the torch to the next generation. And Bianca watched it all, this strange new world they were building. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't clean. There were still shadows, still connections to the old life that couldn't be severed completely. But it was better. One night, 2 weeks after the war ended, she stood on the villa's terrace watching the sunset. Marius joined her, wrapped his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That I should probably check my apartment, see if it's salvageable." "It's not. I had Franco sell it. Got a good price, considering." "You sold my apartment?" "You weren't going back there. We both knew it." He was right. She hadn't even thought about the place since they'd left. "So where do I live now?" "Here, if you want. Or we can find somewhere in the city. Your choice." "Here's good, quiet." "You hate quiet." "I used to. I'm learning to appreciate it." They stood in comfortable silence. Below, the valley was darkening, lights appearing like stars on the ground. "I have something for you," Marius said. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Not a ring box. Something else. Inside was a key. "What's this?" "Safety deposit box. Bank in Switzerland. There's money there. Documents, new identity if you need it. Everything you'd need to disappear if things go wrong." She stared at the key. "You're giving me an escape plan. I'm giving you a choice. Stay because you want to, not because you have to. What if I use it? Just take the money and run? Then I'll miss you every day for the rest of my life. But I'll be glad you're safe." She closed her hand around the key. This was trust. Real trust. The kind that meant giving someone the power to destroy you and hoping they didn't. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For seeing me as an equal, not just an asset, not just someone to protect." "You've always been more than that." "Have I?" "From the moment you walked into my office 3 years ago and told me my filing system was inefficient. You weren't afraid, you didn't try to impress me. You just told me the truth." He turned her to face him. "That's when I knew you were different." "I thought you were an arrogant bastard." "I was. Still am, probably." "Definitely." She kissed him. "But you're my arrogant bastard. Is that a yes?" "A yes to what?" He reached into his other pocket, pulled out a different box. This one was a ring box. Her breath caught. "I know it's fast," he said. I know we have 1,000 things to work through. I know I'll probably disappoint you and lie and make choices you hate, but I also know that I want to spend whatever time I have left trying to be better. For you. With you." He opened the box. "Marry me." The ring was simple. A single diamond, elegant and understated. Nothing ostentatious. Perfect. "This is crazy," she said. "I know. We barely survived a war." "I know. Your father wants you dead. My life is a disaster. We're both damaged beyond repair. I know all of that. And you still want to marry me? Especially because of all that. Because you know exactly who I am and you're still here. Because I know who you are and I'm still here. Because if we can survive what we just survived, we can survive anything." She looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at the life they'd built from blood and lies and impossible choices. Normal would have been easier. Safe would have been smarter. But this was real. "Yes," she said. He blinked. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. We'll probably regret it. We'll definitely fight. You'll lie and I'll be furious and we'll make each other crazy. But yes. He slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. Marius planned everything. They kissed as the sun finished setting, the sky turning purple and gold, the world quiet except for the sound of their breathing. When they finally broke apart, Bianca laughed. What? Marius asked. I was supposed to have coffee with Marco. That's how this all started. One date. One attempt at normal. Regret it? Not even a little. Good. Because normal's overrated. So is safety. So is honesty, apparently. She hit his arm. You promised. No more lies. I promised to try. There's a difference. Marius, I'm kidding. Mostly. He pulled her close. I love you. That's the truth. Everything else we'll figure out as we go. That's the least romantic thing you've ever said. Want me to try again? No, I like the honesty. They went inside as night fell completely. Tomorrow, they'd go back to work. Back to rebuilding an empire that was trying to be something more than violent. Back to the complicated reality of their lives. But tonight, they had this. Each other. The promise they'd made. The future they'd chosen. 3 months later, they married in a small ceremony at the villa. Giorgio stood as best man, still moving carefully but alive. Luca cried, which surprised everyone. Franco gave her away, playing the role her father never had. No grand cathedral, no hundreds of guests, just the people who'd fought beside them, who'd survived with them, who understood what it meant to choose this life. The reception was simple. Wine from local vineyards, food prepared by a chef who owed Marius a favor, music that wasn't too loud, conversation that wasn't too deep. At one point, Bianca found herself standing with Giorgio, watching Marius talk with his men. You're good for him, Giorgio said. Am I? He's different, calmer, like he finally has something to lose that he actually cares about. He cared before, about the empire, about winning, not about a person. Giorgio sipped his wine. I've known him 10 years. I've never seen him like this. Happy. He's happy? Can't you tell? She looked at Marius. He was laughing at something Luca said, completely unguarded. No calculation, no strategy, just genuine joy. Yeah, she said. I guess he is. What about you? What about me? Are you happy? She thought about it, about the blood and the violence and the choices that had led here, about the lies and the manipulation and the war they'd barely survived, about the man who'd given her an escape route and trusted her not to use it, about the life they were building, imperfect and complicated and real. Yeah, she said. I think I am. Later, when the guests had left and they were alone, Marius found her on the terrace. Their terrace now, their home. Regrets? He asked. Thousands. But not about this. Good. Because you're stuck with me now. Forever's a long time. We'll figure it out. You keep saying that. Because it's true. We don't have all the answers. We don't know what's coming. But we'll handle it, together. She leaned against him, watched the stars. Somewhere in the valley below, Naples glittered. The city that had tried to destroy them, the city they'd fought to keep. It would always be there, full of danger and violence and people who wanted what they had. But up here, in this moment, they were safe. I love you, she said. I love you too. Simple words, but they carried the weight of everything they'd been through. Every lie, every truth, every choice that had led them here. This was their happy ending, not perfect, not safe, not anything like the fairy tales promised. But it was theirs. And for two people who'd spent their lives surviving, that was more than enough. The city sparkled below, the future stretched ahead. And Bianca Varelli, now Bianca Orlov, stood with the man she loved and chose this life. Not despite the darkness, because of it. Because sometimes the only way to find the light is to walk through the fire. And they'd walked through hell and come out the other side, scarred but standing, broken but whole, together in the way that only people who've survived the same war can be. This was their story. This was their choice. This was love in the ruins of an empire, built on trust earned through blood, sustained by honesty clawed from lies, celebrated in the quiet moments between battles. And it was enough. More than enough. It was everything.